What's up, everybody? Welcome. I'm Guy, and that's John, and he'll be here shortly. And this is our YouTube channel. The plan tonight after the Niners-Packer game was to go about 30 minutes or 40 minutes after the game. John's got to record some 3-and-out stuff, but I can't wait. I'm not waiting. So if you're here because you want to see Middlekauff, good news. He'll be joining us shortly, but there's no reason to wait. For everybody that's here right now, thank you. Great to have you here on the YouTube stream. This will be a podcast in part. We'll see what becomes a podcast later. But while you're here, you can really help the show by liking the video. When you like the video, it's going to send it out to more people. I don't know how many people are here right now to kick this thing off, but if you're watching this after the fact, if you're not watching it live, you can like the video and help out as well. So thanks for doing that. As we saw tonight, it's a team effort. It's a real team effort. If you're going to break this streak, and the stats all over the place, but they put it on Fox. They went with this 0-30 when trailing by 5 points or more when entering the fourth quarter. I looked real quick for the 7-point stat that I thought was worse than this one, but I couldn't find it before I started this live stream. So whatever it is, if you're going to end it, do it in spectacular fashion, and that's what the 49ers just did. My buddy Ryan McGrady, research guru, has sent me some stuff, which I tweeted out with no attribution to him. On Twitter, I took full credit, no HT hat tip. No, thanks to McGrady's. Probably watching this right now. So, McGrady, thank you. You're the man. But a couple quick little nuggets to get in here. It's the third time the Niners have won a playoff game, down 5 points or more in the fourth quarter. The Super Bowl 23 against the Bengals, Joe Montana to John Taylor, and the famous Trey Junkin game, the 0-2 wildcard game against the Giants. So there's one nugget. And with this victory, Brock Purdy and the Niners advanced to the NFC Championship game. Brock Purdy is going to become the third quarterback to start a conference championship game in each of his first two seasons since the 70s, Roethlisberger and Sanchez. All right, so there's just a couple of stats to get in. Where do you even begin? I wondered, and for 2 weeks, I said, I don't think they're going to be rusty. I don't know if that was rust. I don't think saying that was rust tonight would probably let them off the hook a little bit. That was not rust. That was not good football. And they found a way in crunch time. And their defense, I shouldn't say that was not good football. That was defense. The first 3 possessions for the Packers, they went into the red zone and came out with 6 points. What a gutty performance. Brock was not good. Kyle Shanahan, far from his best. I wondered for a couple of weeks, one thing I talked to, whether it was here solo on YouTube or with John or talking to other people, Cam Inman and I talked about it in a video that a lot of you watched, and that was great. So thank you. What level game, right, could the Niners play, A, B, C, D, and still win? What would it take? You didn't think it was going to take their A game to beat the Packers. I guess I was right about that. What grade game did the 49ers just win with? I'm going to tell you what I think it is right now. Gut instinct, hadn't thought about it. And then we're going to talk through the game, and then John's going to join us. And then I'll see if I still feel that level of grade. On offense, it felt, and I like to do this before I really dive into the numbers, it felt like I'm going to say a C- game. D+ game. On defense, it probably was better at times than it felt. At the end of the day, Jordan Love threw for 194. The yards per carry numbers were pretty good. I mean, Green Bay ran the ball well. So the Niners, it was a classic bend but don't break. In the red zone, they had an A+ defensive effort. Outside of the red zone, it felt like a C+. But Greenlaw is an insane war daddy. Go down, dude. Go down. Out of his mind. At the end of that game. Super chat here. We always appreciate the super chat. Brad with a 20 spot. Get Thomas out of here. That was some Giants level torture. Yeesh. Thank you for the contribution to the show, Brad, on the super chat. I thought they were going to target Ambry Thomas on every throw the last drive of the game. The Green Bay Packers get the ball there with 107. I thought they did a good job on TV of showing, and our boy John Dickinson was at the game, was texting me right when the Niners, after the Niners scored, he said the rain has really started to come down. And on the first possession, they go Dobbs at Ambry Thomas, and you thought, all right, well, that's how you lose this game. So that's not how it played out, but that's what it felt like in that moment. This is a great call here from Big Boss. Big Boss, hit that like button, people. Big Boss, Jauan Jennings needs to be MVP. Jauan Jennings felt like the MVP of the game. If you missed my conversation from the locker room with Jauan Jennings this week, he told me that his father named him Benny when he was born. That should be third and Benny. It should be Benny Jennings that went 5 for 61. The catch that almost Benny Jennings had over the middle of the field on the drive that ended up with a Niners punt was incredible. The drive before the drive they went ahead on. But his brother said, no, I don't like Benny. Jauan Jennings, he told me, no one's ever asked me about my name before until I walked in. His brother said, no, I don't like Benny. How about Jauan? And his mom said, okay. And they named him Jauan. Jauan Jennings. What an absolute stud. I did not like giving him the ball on a handoff to start the second half. Debo was out. Debo shoulder pads gone. Debo just sitting there on his own and unavailable. And they had the whole second half or the whole halftime to plot a play. And they came out with a gun run to Jauan Jennings. It felt like maybe the worst play call of Kyle Shanahan's career. It was awful. You can't rattle Jauan. Jauan's catch at the beginning on the 3rd down and 10 at the beginning of the fourth quarter from their own 30-ish yard line, layered over 2 guys in front, gets cracked, was incredible. I mean, so much of this game was about field position. There were so many things that happened, and that was one thing that happened where if Jauan Jennings doesn't make that play, just think about the butterfly effect of this game. The Niners don't score a touchdown on that drive, but on their second to last drive of the game. But Jauan gets that 3rd down, and it totally flips the field. Well, what ends up happening? The Packers get it and kick a 41-yard field goal. If Jauan Jennings doesn't, Jennings doesn't make that play, who knows where the Packers score on that drive? That drive started at the 10-yard line because the Niners punted down to the 10-yard line. And then the Packers break off a 53-yard run. And I'm not, I don't think you can say, well, if Jennings hadn't made that play, then that 53-yard run would have been a touchdown. Like, too many weird things happen. But I do think you can say definitively, if Jauan Jennings doesn't make that catch on 3rd and 10, and even though the Niners don't score, he completely flips the field, then the Packers are not lining up for a 41-yard field goal, which they eventually miss. They're lining up maybe for a 15-yard field goal, or maybe they've scored a touchdown. So when you have a game with so few possessions, and let me go back and look, because early in this game, and thank you, Sean Klein, for the 5 spot on the Super Chat. Thank you. Early in this game, and this is, I love and I told you so as much as the next guy. That's not this. This is, I'm just checking myself here. So look at this. I tweeted, no good sentence starts with I tweeted, ever. If you start a sentence with I tweeted, oh, did you see my tweet? You're kind of an asshole. But if you recognize it, you're like half an asshole. So what I thought at the beginning of the game was, because Green Bay, ate up a lot of the first quarter with that 15-play drive to start the game. And what I wrote on the internet was, there's going to be like 6 or 7 possessions in this game per team. Kind of sarcastic, but there were 9. Each team got 9 possessions. Niners got 3 possessions in the first half. The Packers got 3 possessions in the first half. I'm going to update this tweet. Each team got 9. And then each team, what tends to happen just watching possessions this year with the Niners, you tend to get, I don't know if this is everybody. It makes sense that it would probably work this way, but you tend to get more possessions in the second half. At least in Niner games, there tends to be more possessions in the second half, which makes sense. But 9 total possessions. Yeah. So 3 each in the first half, 6 each in the second half. Niners did not cover. So since I gave you and I told you so, I also got to give I said they would cover. They did not. John, thank you for the super chat. We'll do it when Middlekauff is here. But yeah, while we're all here, over 1,000 of you hanging out on the show, hit that like button. Thank you. That helps more people find it. Middlekauff will join us coming up. We are brought to you by Tito's handmade vodka. Tito's handmade vodka numero uno. If you are going to celebrate tonight, or if you're miserable during the game, if you're going to need a little help sleeping or not, Tito's handmade vodka. I love to mix it with a ginger beer. Reed's ginger beer is my go-to. The zero sugar Reed's ginger beer. You go to most like specialty grocers, that thing's going to be like Reed's does not advertise. So I don't know. I'm doing a Reed's ad. But Reed's that'll be like $7, $8, $9 at a specialty grocery. Go to Trader Joe's. It's going to be cheaper there. Get the Tito's, which is going to be basically the same price everywhere. And that's my go-to. That's my favorite. A little lemon and water is Tito. The man who invented Tito's vodka, his name is Tito Beveridge. His last name is Beveridge. And Tito Beverage's favorite beverage is a Tito's and water with a little lemon. So, an Arnold Palmer, make it a John Daly. So the iced tea, the lemonade, Tito's, make it a John Daly. That's a go-to. But whatever you do, do it responsibly. Of course, take it to somebody's house, host at your house, belly up to the bar. Tito's handmade vodka, crafted to be savored responsibly. James Hennessy. James is sponsored. Brock and Jordan Love similar games. Brock Purdy misses were off by a lot. They really were. It was not a great game for him. We'll talk about that last drive in a second, because if you're going to lead a game-winning drive, similar to what he did in Cleveland when Moody missed the field goal, and it's very similar circumstances, really very similar game. In terms of just like the way it's set up, and Brock was under 50% that day in Cleveland. That was different today, 23 of 39. That's not good. I mean, that's going to be one of his lower percentages. 58.9. I'm going to guess that's like his third or fourth lowest of the season without looking. But that game he was under 50% and eventually made some throws. Nothing spectacular, but some strong plays at the end. And the Niners, I thought for a second, should Christian go down? But you don't. When you're trailing, you just got to take the money. You got to take the touchdown. McCaffrey did it. LaFleur took some chances, getting the ball with a minute and 7, but he had his 3 timeouts. But maybe that strategy backfired on him a little bit, not taking the timeout earlier. But yeah, Brock was bad in this game. Mostly they dropped multiple interceptions. Green Bay dropped 2 picks, and none of that matters because they won the game. We go back and I've said it before, and this is not a fair comp, but the catch game, Montana had 3 picks. 3 picks today might have doomed them. 2 picks today might have doomed them. The one early in the game, really 2 of them could have been pick sixes. And then there were some balls that were not almost intercepted, but were just airmailed, hung in the air, way off target. The shot of him that Fox had of him dropping back, taking the ball, wiping his hand, that was stunning. You just kind of felt like he is off. When he came out with the glove, immediately you thought he might be off today. He's not comfortable. At minimum, like that was fair to believe, right? He is not comfortable. When he comes out with the glove, he wasn't comfortable. And then he took the glove off and he still looked uncomfortable. So survival, absolute survival, which is what you have to do sometimes in the playoffs. It is about surviving, not about dominating. You hoped watching them that okay, maybe this will play out like the Ravens game where it's a game for 2.5 quarters and then nope. So Robbie, any concern about that run defense going forward? Was Hargrave a no-show? They were getting gashed routinely. It was uncomfortable to watch. Yes, concern about the run game for sure. Now, Green Bay has been running the ball better lately. So I think coming into it, you understood like this is a strength of theirs right now. Their running back's healthy. Their offensive line is healthy. But what this defense does in the red zone is just incredible. I mean, really impressive. So, but to answer the question, yeah, you were about the run game. I was watching Lamar Jackson today. Back when I was just chilling this afternoon, just setting up for the Super Bowl. Yeah, Lamar's a problem. Lamar's going to be a problem. They're going to be a problem with Dalvin Cook. Ravens did not have Dalvin Cook. Don't worry, I'm not jumping ahead to the Super Bowl. Not after what we just witnessed. 49. The Ravens did not have Dalvin Cook the first time around. So, they look better with the run game. But yeah, that was it. I mean, Jones was 18 over 108, 6 yards a carry. Let's take away the 53-yarder. 108 becomes educational system 55, 17. Oh, wait a second. Is that right? This doesn't feel right. If you take away the 53-yard run by Aaron Jones, then he was 3.2 yards a carry. I'm going to double check that just because that sounds crazy. Yeah, 17 divided by 55. Yeah, 55 divided by 17. 3.23 yards a carry. Didn't feel that good, did it? Good and short yardage. That fourth down stop early in the game on the second possession of the game. I mean, this defense, those first 3 drives saved the game. They saved the game with, the pressure that Steve Wilks ran at the kind of the false pressure that Steve Wilks ran at Love on the 3rd down and 10 before the missed field goal was also a clutch call. Give Steve Wilks his flowers for that call. That was a clutch ass call, a CAC, a CAC. 3rd down and 10. This is the drive that Green Bay had the big run. They get into, 2nd down and 10, 3rd down and 10. And he brings the linebackers up, and Olsen says, here they come. Are they going to come up the gaps? And they do step and then bail, and that pressure created a tension by that Packers offensive line in the middle of the line of scrimmage. And then if you go back and look at it, dudes were just coming unblocked at Love, and he just had to get rid of it. So that was clutch. But the 4th down, Niners, they were far from perfect. They made a bunch of mistakes. They got some breaks in this game. I mean, you have to if you're going to play that poorly. They got some breaks, and one of their breaks really early was the 4th down and 1 play where they Packers rush up to the line of scrimmage, and Niners had 3 guys lined up in the neutral zone. It's one of those where, 3rd and short, 4th and short, sneak situations, tush push situations. Let's be a little loose and fast let's let the defense line up where they want to line up. But that was a big spot, and this was a game that had they lost it, and they didn't, had they lost it, what would we be talking about right now? I guess we don't have to do that, but end of the first half management. Jake Moody getting a kick blocked where it looked like it was his fault that it was blocked. That ball was coming out low into the left. Don't forget. That ball was coming up low into the left. And so that and Brock and this was setting up to be a Brock and Shanahan failure game. That's how it was setting up because the defense held up their end of the bargain. They really did. And it was setting up to be are we sure? Is Amy Trask right about Brock Purdy? That and more coming up. No, I mean, that's what the night was turning into. Can Kyle get it done? That's what the night was turning into. And that's not what it turned into. So the Brock Purdy last drive, let's talk about that. And again, over almost 13 of you here right now. Thank you. Hit that like button. That helps more people find it. Go down. Who was yelling go down? Who was yelling go down over and even Greg Olsen. And then somebody stands up in front of the camera. Dre Greenlaw disappears behind that person. And you're like, I swear to God, if when this person sits down, the ball is on the ground, I'm going to lose my shit. But he eventually went down. I don't. It is such a great example when you talk to guys who play the sport or whatever of just how you must black out sometimes when you play the game when you're one of those guys who plays the game, especially when you're one of those guys who plays the game on the edge, to not go down when you have iced the game for only God knows what reason, because I got some prime time in me, is one of the craziest. That is one of the craziest game seal. When you think about it, that's one of the most terrifying game sealing plays, because the game ends, you get the pick, you go down, and everyone celebrates. You don't extend the horror. Oh my God. What were we talking about? Brock Purdy's last drive. Okay. So let's talk about Brock Purdy's last drive. Niners get the ball. And this was a 5-minute drive to end the game. And to put, Jordan Love, did Jordan Love have to throw that ball at the end? No. But you got to believe that the clock situation is part of why he threw that ball, because he's feeling the pressure. It's first down. I mean, Musgrave had just got the 3rd and 2, but you're under a minute, and it was unnecessary. It was not necessary. But the pressure of that moment, not that he cracked necessarily, but I think the pressure of the moment is why he tried to do something kind of crazy. And you know what? If you said 50-50 ball in the driving rain, is Dre Greenlaw going to come make that catch? Let's give Dre Greenlaw his credit here on the hands with the arm brace. 50-50 shot, he drops that ball, right? As that ball's in the air, Jordan Love's probably thinking, oh no, but he's not going to catch that ball, is he? He caught the ball. Greenlaw always bets the over. So, all right, so here we go. 6 minutes and 18 seconds left in the game. Niners are trailing. They've just missed a field goal, so Green Bay has. So the Niners get the ball to the 31-yard line. Dump down to McCaffrey. They get the Purdy, a couple runs, and then Purdy gets the sneak 3rd and 1. All right. So now we're moving a little bit, right? Dump it down to McCaffrey, 5 yards. Always feels great on first down. A McCaffrey just doot on first down always feels great. 2nd and 5. Kittle, drop. Oh no. That's one of those things where if you lose the game, you look at it and go, when does that ever happen? Kittle not dropped and hit, dropped like on his hip, just kind of looking to run. He was looking to yak. He was looking to create yards. Drops the ball. It's like, all right. 3rd and 5. Brandon Ayuk today made 2 incredible catches. What did Brandon finish with? 2? Did he finish with 2 or 3? Finished with 3. Brandon Ayuk today, in crunch time, made 2 badass catches. The catch that he made with the ball down at his feet to pick up a first down was a great catch. The catch on this drive, though, the diving catch where the ball pops out, he immediately says first down. They check it. I mean, they don't check it, but they show the replay a couple times. Like, yeah, God damn, he caught that ball. Holy smokes, what a catch. So, all right, 3rd and 5, you pick up that first down. They had some it felt like they were, I haven't checked this stat, so let's look at it together. Sometimes you like to check, does it feel like they felt excellent on 3rd down? They were 10 of 16 on 3rd down today. I don't have their average yards to go. But it felt like it was a lot of 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7. I would guess that's their best 3rd down conversion rate of the year. I mean, we'll have time to look into that, but that'd be my guess. That's got to be their best 3rd down conversion rate of the year. So they get the 3rd down. Debo's out of this game. Chris freaking Conley, who I talked to Chris Conley on Wednesday in the Niners locker room. And the reason I went and talked to Chris Conley was because Chris Conley was born on an Air Force base called Incirlik Air Force Base in Ankara, Turkey. It's in southern Turkey. Okay. So it's like straight, if you're looking at a map, it's like straight south of Istanbul, the former Constantinople. And he was born in like 92 or 93. Me and Chris, I was at that Air Force base. My dad was. I mean, I was there, young, little Chris Conley. We were there at the same time. And I went and talked to Chris Conley about it. And both our families came back from Turkey with a lot of Turkish rugs and leather from Pop's Leather. It's the leather spot. So when I went and talked to Chris Conley today in the locker room, Wednesday in the locker room, I just want to talk to Chris Conley about Incirlik, Turkey, Incirlik Air Force Base in Ankara, Turkey. I did not think to ask him, Hey, Chris, any chance you make a clutch catch this week? He was good. He had a good special teams punt cover too. So Chris Conley, hashtag stay ready. Do people say hashtag anything anymore? No. And 26 to the 26-yard line. What a catch. Great throw. Credit to him and Brock. I mean, how many times those guys have had have they connected on a ball this year? I mean, Darnold threw a ball to Chris Conley week 18. Has Chris Conley caught a ball from Brock Purdy in a game this year? Let's check this. Chris Conley game log. I mean, for those guys in that spot to be on the same page, that happens if you practice. Like if you really know how to practice and you practice effectively, because they're just fundamentally, you're not going to get, you'll get some connections in drills. In drills, Chris Conley will throw to Brock Purdy will throw to Chris Conley because receivers are rotating, quarterbacks are rotating. But once you get into practice, like 11 on 11 practice, I can't imagine Brock Purdy has thrown that many balls to Chris Conley. They had not connected at all this year. Chris Conley was not active for half of the games. He didn't have a catch the first 16 games of the year. His only catches came week 17 with Sam Darnold. So they did not connect on a ball all year long. And I can't imagine the Niners, those two guys, connected much in practice. So for them to be on the same page, to me, what it says is that when they are doing their drills on air, just receivers running routes, quarterbacks throwing the ball, that those two dudes took it seriously. And that Brock Purdy does what he does, and that Chris Conley takes seriously what the receivers are supposed to take seriously. Where are you supposed to be on this play? So give Chris Conley his credit on that and give Brock Purdy his credit on that. None of this, these guys haven't played much together. In a massive spot, they connected for a huge play. That is awesome. That right there is why practice matters. Let me make a note. I'm going to talk about that later. All right. So then Kittle gets the 8-yarder. George, by the way, George's ball security off the charts. Just ball security off the charts. 8 yards. McCaffrey on second down, 2nd and 2. Gets the run, 2-minute warning. Play to McCaffrey out of bounds. The Purdy scramble. And then the McCaffrey touchdown. So what did Brock do on that last drive, on the game-winning drive? He got him from the 31-yard line to the end zone, 69 yards. They did it in 5 minutes. He made a clutch third down throw to Ayuk, who made a clutch catch. He made the throw to Conley. He was on target twice to Kittle. So he threw the ball 5 times because he had I think it was a swing pass, whatever it was. It was a run play. And he made good throws. His scramble, Greg Olsen said, I think he stepped out of there too soon. And when you look at it, you understand it. But what happened was he stepped up into the press. Once he stepped up, and then he had to get out of there. And go back and watch that play again. Trent Williams almost tripped him. He almost tripped over Trent Williams' foot. So that was a scary moment. Well, the moment is here, and John has joined us with a Coors Light, keeping it light. What's up, everybody? Welcome. I'm Guy. That's John.
Cheers to Tito's.
Cheers, John. Happy Tito. So, John,
I didn't have time. I needed to get a drink, and I didn't have time to make a cocktail.
Let me get this thing off the screen here. Oh, all right. So normally when we do a show, we talk at least for 90 seconds before the thing begins.
Did the Niners win? Did the Niners win that game?
Niners won that game, John. Here's a question for you. Let me get your immediate reaction on this because we were texting throughout the game. But
is that the craziest Niner win of my life?
What grade game did they just win with?
I mean, what would you say? 90+% of the game you thought they were going to lose, right? When did you feel like they're going to win this game? Because for the majority of it,
no point.
So if the majority of the game, let's just say 95% of the game, you thought this team is going to lose, that's not a good game, right? So if I'm just basing up the grade scale, you would go, and then you factor in how, they ran a play that clearly they had drawn up for Debo Samuel, who's in a fucking slang sweatshirt on the sideline for Jauan Jennings. We'll get into Purdy and Kyle, but that play, Kyle, is like, what? Is that the worst play he's ever called?
That or the one with Trent Williams, where he motioned Trent Williams. It
worked before.
I know.
That play was better. The Trent worked.
That play was play. Yeah, this play is.
That's one of the best players in NFL history.
Yeah.
Right?
That play just failed. This play, it's funny. Somebody else asked me, like, do you feel
why
like
would you put Ray there?
Or just how about not run the play? How about that?
Or how about, I don't know, put Christian there?
Yeah, or put Christian there. But I just mean, like, Debo's a running back. Well, the other guys aren't. So let's do something else.
Put Elijah Mitchell there. I don't know. Put anyone there.
First play of the half. Johnny had the whole halftime to come up with that one.
Are you a believer you either trust the quarterback or you don't, or is it a game-by-game situation if he's not Peyton Manning or Tom Brady? Because you can't unequivocally trust this guy and be like, he's my guy, and then he has a bad half. And I get it's a playoff game, and then pucker up and treat him like he's Jimmy Garoppolo 2.0. Because that end of the half is like, people are tweeting at me, well, they're going too high. You don't have to throw bombs. You can, I don't know, throw out routes and gain another 15 yards and kick a 30-yard field goal. And what was that attempt? 48 yards?
47, I think. Yeah.
Who was worse tonight, Kyle or Purdy?
Now, Purdy. I mean, it was. Hold on. Two things. What was your grade then? What grade did they just win with?
C- at best.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to give them a C- because they won, but it feels like a D.
You're asking me a lot of questions, so let me answer them part by part.
Well, there's a lot. It feels like there's a lot going on.
There is. Bullets are flying. This other question you asked was, who was worse? This game was setting up to be on both their heads. Like Kyle, this is a Kyle and Brock with two of their worst games at their worst times. I had a list going of all of Shanahan's.
But Kyle, because he makes so much money, Purdy. I think Purdy's off season. Like, do they sign Kirk Cousins?
Well, what I was thinking was, is Darnold coming back with like a chance to compete? So
did you see what Schlereth said?
What did Schlereth say?
I guess he said this on the broadcast in the Rams game. I don't remember. No, he said this on his podcast. That when he was doing the Rams game, that Kyle and Darnold told him that Kyle said, "There's no way you can beat out Purdy in practice, but you might be able to do it in preseason games."
I did not hear that.
And he turned down that. Darnold turned down way more money to do like the Baker Mayfield, like, hey, come here, compete for it's legitimately a 50-50 shot. Come here, try to be the starting quarterback. $5-10 million. I don't know the exact number, but he was told this by Kyle too. And he's like, I want to go to Kyle rehab, and I believe I can beat everyone out. Not even talking about Trey, he was talking about Purdy.
Yeah. I did not hear that.
And then Kyle validated with like, I love the guy. I think he's a stud.
Super chat here. Purdy looked like Garoppolo today. There were some Garoppolo-esque moments. Okay, so let me answer your other question.
I mean, as equally as bad, if not worse.
You asked him if I'm a believer that you either always trust the quarterback or if you only sometimes trust the quarterback, it means you don't trust the quarterback, right? Fully.
Yeah.
And I think one thing is clear. In the rain, it's different with Brock. I think we just have to acknowledge that right now. It's different.
Is that a problem?
When he came out with a glove on, John, it was just like that's a signal that he's just not comfortable, right?
How did he play in a cold weather place?
Well, I don't know. They never played in the rain. They only played like 3 rain games at Iowa State in 4 years. So
how about the glove comes off in the second?
Well, then the glove immediately comes off. So he was just clearly not comfortable. So, I think it's somewhat situational, just like analytics are situational for coaches, right? Based on how the other team is playing, how your defense is playing. But it was clear tonight he didn't trust him. He didn't trust him at the end of that first half at all. Like they had.
Do you agree he could not function in the AFC in the weather we're seeing?
It does not. Yeah, that's based on what we've seen at this point. No, I thought the issue at the end of the first half. It wasn't just they used a timeout. He wants to run the clock down, fine. But he used a timeout. He let the play clock go to 0, used a timeout, like 32 seconds. I mean, at least run a play there, and it was 3rd and 2, and then you have another timeout. You can move the ball, and then and the other thing, it was not enough faith in Brock and too much faith in Moody.
Guy had 3 timeouts, like $1:10 left. I saw Ted Nguyen tweet, like, how do you have 3 timeouts with $1:10? You make like an extra yard, and then it's 29 seconds, and you got 1 timeout, and you've moved like 2 yards. Like, what? How is this? It was hard. There was a lot going on. In football games, it's crazy no matter what. You're like, what is fucking happening right now? How are we just acknowledging we're cool with kicking a 50-yard field goal like we got Justin Tucker? At least throw some out routes. Because they did on one play, and they hit him. Just throw a...
Didn't get out of bounds.
The slants were a little risky, but...
the slants are their bread and butter, and today they were not their bread and butter.
He couldn't.
They were at midfield with 1:06 left.
Yeah, I would say this. I'm not trying to overreact
to a win.
If you can't function in 59 degrees and rain, I have a hard time ever giving you hundreds of millions of dollars. It's just that I'm not. We've got a long way to go to even that spot. That's pretty glaring, guy. Like that's a pretty big problem. I mean, today Kyle was awful. But, like, you call plays that I think you shouldn't call. Now, I'm biased. I had Christian McCaffrey to go for over 100 yards. But also, like, why don't you run the ball against a defense that's not very good running the ball? Like, when do you ever start these games, like, going 4 and 5 wide? Are you Cliff Kingsbury and Lincoln Riley? What the fuck was he doing? But regardless, once the quarterback is looking like a quarterback that we see throughout the season, isn't it like, well, I don't know. We have one of the most talented running backs of all time. Our quarterback can barely grip. Even Greg Olson's like, God, it looks weird coming out. What is going on? And he keeps trying to throw the ball. It was a bizarre mesh of the two. I don't blame Brock. If he can't throw, he can't throw. Right? It is what it is. We just have to acknowledge he can't throw when it's wet. Isn't it on the coach then to, like, let's manipulate some of this? He wasn't even throwing. And I get Debo's has a broken shoulder or whatever, which is another problem. He was throwing like high percent or low percentage passes, like big dropbacks. It was a bizarre game from Kyle. They kept putting his quarterback in worse and worse situations who was struggling.
Yeah. And was clearly, I don't know if rattled's the word, but was uncomfortable.
Felt rattled.
Right. Yeah.
How many people were sitting on their couch tonight, eating a burrito, beers with their boys, whoever, all across the nation.
Chicken bowl.
This quarterback's over his head.
Yeah. Amy Trask
was taking a victory lap. Who's an all-time fraud and like couldn't fucking generate a penny in the Bay Area.
I can't believe that
complete loser, but like she kind of, I felt like she was gaining some steam. Like I was like, I can't believe she's gonna be right on this one. Mark Davis and Bedane couldn't have run her out of the building any quicker. Think about that. A guy that overpaid the Oakland municipality, overpaid by millions. It wasn't like, they gave him an extra $100,000. It's like, wasn't it like 20, 30 million? It was a lot of money.
Yeah.
Ran her out of the building with a quickness. She's giving her takes. Give me a break.
Well, you know what they felt like today? They felt like a dome team today. They felt like the Niners felt like a dome.
His comp is Drew Brees. I mean, Drew Brees isn't exactly outdoors ass kicker.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, the difference is Drew Brees played in a dome. So when he got home games, he was
not supposed to rain end of next week in Santa Clara, and the Super Bowl, should you get that far, is in Allegiant Stadium, the home of the Raiders, John. Let me get to a couple more super chats here. Han says, 5:50 a.m. in Germany. That was the game that kept me and my neighbors awake. So thanks, Kyle and Purdy, I guess. Holy shit, hell of a game.
You think Debo broke his shoulder?
So for those of you listening to the pod or watching this later, it's 9:09 p.m. Pacific right now. Kyle has talked. Let's see if he said anything about it. Felt like,
that'd be a problem.
It was very similar to what happened with Cleveland. I don't know if the injury was, but just kind of like injury.
Innocuous tackle, fine, rolled over on.
Doesn't make an expression at all.
I know.
So I'll look.
Didn't it feel like their game plan, did it revolve around 19 more than 23?
It might have. Yeah, because they looked like they weren't ready to not play without Debo.
And I had some people texting me like, is Christian hurt? Is that why they refused to go to him? And I'd be like, I'd understand that, using him as a decoy. If when they gave it to him a couple times, he didn't make huge plays and they were running routes for him and they were throwing the ball at him. So to me, being a decoy, and clearly he's out there looking relatively healthy, he broke a couple tackles. Do you agree he was more, even if he is not 100%, he's not a decoy, because once he had that big run in the first half, even the run in the second half, he broke the tackle to score. He was running routes constantly.
He looked 100%.
Do you agree that they didn't even use him remotely close to enough?
Let's see. He had 17 carries and 12. He did have 12 targets, 7 catches. So 24 touches, but 12 targets. That's a lot.
How many of those were 18 feet over his head?
At least 3 of them. Yeah. I texted our boy Dickinson, whose boots on the ground, to see any
how many balls tonight flew at a level in which Yao Ming jumping couldn't have touched the ball.
It's funny right now. You and I'm the same way. Like, you spent 3 quarters and like almost a fourth quarter expecting them to lose, and they won the game. Right.
But this is the type, and I think everyone watching, anyone that's going to listen, anyone that watched that game comes out of this of they've won enough games where they've beat the shit out of people. The Ravens, for example, awful first half. Even Lamar admits we were cussing at each other at halftime. I got old takes exposed. It's like they were getting embarrassed by D'Amico in the first half. Like, that happened. Then the second half happened, and they kicked ass. 24 unanswered. They overwhelmed them. And you're like, listen, bye. Weird first half. D'Amico's a stud. Kept it close. And then the cream rised, right? It's like they separated it. You leave the game going like, I bet the Ravens look like they did in the second half next week. You leave this Niner game, you go, am I supposed to feel good about next week? You go, is Debo okay? What the fuck was that? I think everyone I'm on 80 million text chains with Niner fans. I don't see many happy people. Not happy, obviously happy you lose. It sucks if you're a Packer fan. You're like, wait, we lost? But I do think that was that was an eye-opening experience. That was a heart-pounding experience.
Yeah. But what I would say to you is like, that is not normally what this football team looks like, right? Would you agree with that? That's just not normally what they look like.
But
not like Green Bay. It's not like Green Bay's got something that other people don't have.
But their quarterback couldn't function.
No, I understand. But that's not normally how he looks. So, like, I think it's more likely than not that they look better next week.
But this is also the thing of like,
they don't look.
The game gets tighter. He looked a little tight, and I get it's wet, but it's like, this ain't fucking November. And I'm not some hater of the kid.
There's no doubt.
What the fuck was that?
There's no question. There's going to be a bunch of questions about them next week. But they looked way worse than they normally look in this game. And it almost cost them their season, except it didn't.
Okay, let's flip to the other side. I would say one thing that's glaring, beside, I don't know, was Josh Norman out there covering people?
Well, there's a reason clearly, right?
Their run defense has been pretty bad.
There's a reason they try to get Jason Verrett back on this team.
I agree, but we can talk about all we want. Like, I don't know about you. I think Jordan Love, if I'm a Packer fan, once I take a couple days, I'm pretty bullish on the long-term.
You know about me. I was first to Jordan Love on the show, man.
The run defense, I don't have the stats in front of me, feel like it's been pretty shitty for a while, right? The 49ers don't exactly feel like the 85 Bears against the run right now, correct?
Yeah, and it was actually sneaky better than it felt. Aaron Jones was 6 yards a carry. If you take out the 53-yarder, I know
you can't, guy.
But no, I understand. But he was 3 yards a carry. If you told me take out the 53-yarder, I thought he was still going to be 5 yards a carry. He wasn't. He was 3.
But he led. Here's the thing, and I understand it's about creating, getting off the field to field goals and not touchdowns. But like, it's a fine line, right? It easily could be a touchdown. It easily could be a field goal. Mm-hmm. He was running right down their throat on multiple drives that could easily next week be Montgomery and Gibbs. I mean, are equally as good as him. I mean, he's a stud, Aaron Jones. But like the combination of Montgomery and Gibbs, I'm going to assume Detroit wins, is fucking fantastic. And their offensive line, like the Packers, is really good. It's a problem. Like, you just don't feel like when the 49ers were running it, sometimes it felt like the gaps were bigger when the Packers ran it than when the 49ers ran it. I think it was harder for McCaffrey to get daylight than it was for them. I hear you. Like, I understand. Like,
I agree with you. It's
but even if that run wasn't 53, it was a legit like 20-yard run, no doubt about it, right? Like, it was gas.
Oh yeah. Look, if your question is, are you concerned about the run defense? My answer is yes. Before you came on, I was stunned when I took that thing out, and I thought it was going to be 5 yards of carry, and it was 3.2.
I guess part of the reaction on this is, I think we came into this game thinking like Kevin Durant Warriors, like this team's winning the Super Bowl. That's what I think, right? So the reaction, obviously it's negative because you barely won, but it's also like, can what we just witnessed, if this is something weird, are they going to win 2 more games? Like, is the quarterback, if things get weird, why does the coach get weird? Their defensive coordinator, let's face it, you clearly don't have as much confidence in him as you did D'Amico. Ambry's spinning. Their Chase Young as an executive on a playoff team texted me tonight. Like, I think he stinks. I didn't say that. He said that. And I watched him. Like, oh yeah, I don't really see, like, he's definitely not a number 2 overall pick guy getting a lot of money. Like, is the 49ers re-signing that guy?
You remember when we thought he might get Ayuk's money?
But the point is that they are depending on him, right?
Yeah, Farrell's on it. Farrell's done for the year.
And Chase Young is just, you trade a 3rd-round pick for him. He starts. He's big and physical. He's stiff and not explosive. So it's like you just run to his side because, unlike Bosa, he can't make any plays. The linebackers felt like they were getting gobbled up a little bit. There's a lot going on tonight. In not a good way. Now, the final drive, you could argue I didn't, and you didn't watch that fucking final drive when he points at John Candy and he leads him right down the field. But
I watched it like 2 months ago.
But isn't that all that matters? Like, he made 2 great passes on that play. You know, Conley and obviously Ayuk's catch, which was remarkable. Yeah. And his run was big. This is not a 7-game series. Because if this was a 7-game series, you'd be like, God, the Packers got to feel good about it, right? But it's 1 game. They're done.
Right. And normally it's the favored team that's happy with it. Like, yeah, it's a 7-game. We can handle a 7-game series, right? And the Niners are thrilled it's not a 7-game series.
You could argue I got more faith in Purdy's like mental stamina to kind of like handle it. I thought Kyle was really bizarre tonight with his play calling. Like, why was he so consumed with passing early in the game in a rainstorm with a quarterback that's wearing 2 gloves? This guy's not Peyton Manning. What the fuck are you doing? You have Christian McCaffrey. You traded to half the draft. The guy led the league in rushing. He's like, him and Tyreek are 2 best offensive players in the NFL. He's a dominant player. I don't get it. That was baffling to me. And I'm pro spreading it out sometimes.
How about the 4th and 10?
Like that was
how about
weird.
The 4th? Yeah, no, sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to add to it. I was looking at my list of weird. I texted our buddy Ryan McGrady. I said, Ryan, how many times have the Niners thrown more than they've run in the first half this year? 13 was because they did it tonight. And I'm like, oh, that's a bad sign. 13 times they've done it, but
they've done what? Say it again.
Thrown more than they run in the first half.
They've done
13 times this year. They threw the ball more than they ran the ball in the first half of games.
They do it a lot.
So they do it a lot, which I didn't expect. How about here? I have a question for you about Kyle. What do you think he was going to do? Fourth and 10, down 21-17. They're at like the 40 on the ball to Ray McLeod. Where like it like was, it was a bad. Ray wasn't catching that ball. You remember the play I'm talking about?
Where they ended up punting?
Yeah, they ended up punting down to the 10, and then they get the ball and have the big run.
Yeah.
What, like, because as that's unfolding, I'm thinking, well, this is 4-down territory. You're down by 4. 4th down and 10. Go pick up 6 yards. Go get 5 yards. You get 5 yards. Now you've got 4th and 5, or you can kick like a 52, 53 yard.
No, you can't do that. You can't do that.
You can't. Kick
I don't think you can kick a field goal in that spot when a field goal you're still losing.
So do you think he would have gone for it on 4th and 5, or was he going to play the field position? Because Kyle loves to play the field position game. And when he didn't, because Greg Olsen goes.
Then they ended up stopping on that drive, and then they got the ball back with like 6:20.
They ended up missing the field goal. Green Bay misses the field goal.
Yeah. And then they get the ball back with 6:20, and they drive the field and score a touchdown with like a minute left. Or whatever, so minute 20.
It made me think that he was not in 4-down territory in his mind. Like he was not going to pick up 6 yards and then go for it on 4th and 4. he was going to play the field position game unless he picked up the first down.
How ironic is it that both these teams clearly don't have that much faith in their kicker? Did they say on the broadcast that they asked LaFleur what he does after every kick? He says he prays.
Before the kick, he prays. Like, I don't think he wanted that on the air when he told you guys that in the meeting.
I don't think so either, Greg. Like, clearly he likes you guys, but now, at this point, that kid has missed how many extra points? 6? 5? I think 5 or 6.
They didn't draft him, did they?
I didn't. Is that Daniel Carlson's cousin or brother?
Anders.
That miss
Carlson
turns out to be one of the luckier misses than I can remember the Niners having. I mean, that's a big miss, right? You're down. You're still down a touchdown, but a touchdown doesn't tie the game. It takes the lead, and then the moment they get it back with a little over a minute, you feel different pressure. If you're tied, it's just dramatically different. I mean, that was an enormous miss. If you're a Packer fan right now, I don't see how you sleep tonight because does it cross your mind? I was thinking about this.
That we're going to the Super Bowl?
All game long, I don't know about you. I mean, completely cool, especially the second half. Like, they're losing this game. This is crazy. This is an all-time disappointing season. Put yourself in Green Bay shoes. We've already beat Detroit in Detroit, kind of kicked their ass in Thanksgiving. We're not going to be intimidated to play them. Tampa, are you fucking kidding me? We'll be favored in that game. One game in a dome? What team is better suited in a dome with all these fucking
Green Bay
we have right now?
Feels like it, right?
There had to be half their fan base, which is massive, had to cross their mind like, could we win the Super Bowl? And then you lose in the second round. Isn't that what makes, the NCAA tournament in football the best? It's like there's no like, well, hey, we got game 3 coming up, right? It just ends. You had Super Bowl thoughts in your head, and then the fucking kid misses a field goal. Purdy pulls a couple of throws out of his ass, and you lose the game. You're like, we just lost to that Kyle Shanahan's version of the worst game we've ever seen him coach. I actually thought that karma, in a weird way, I believe in sports karma and real life karma. This goes back to the snowy game where Gold hits the kick and Jimmy comes up to him and says, fuck the Packers. I'm like, 49ers had no business winning that game. Is this the football gods balancing football out and being like, yeah, you probably should be better in this team, but you're going to lose this game at home by... Guy, it was 21-14 and the Packers had the ball. I'm thinking, are they going to lose this game 31-14?
Yep. Because you thought before they missed the field goal, it felt like they were about to score a touchdown and end the game. End the game with like 7 minutes left. I know.
Well, they got the ball back in the fucking at the 10-yard line, and was it 3rd and 10? And Aaron Jones takes it 75 yards or whatever, 53 yards.
No, I think it was second.
Was it second down?
Yeah.
Honestly, it felt like he could have kept running. He broke a tackle, and then a couple guys missed tackles, and he did a couple 360s, and he kind of was like not even trying to run. He was still gaining yards. Like, are we just not even tackling?
Well, it felt like that their defense was giving up. The way like the Texans defense at one point today when that game was still close, but not, once it got a 2-score game,
they were out of gas.
These guys can't tackle anymore, And these guys were on the field. These Niners were on the field a lot on defense early in that game. It was a first down run, the 53-yarder, but. Go on, get over to it. How about Deommodore Lenoir's not a problem. That guy played his ass off. Yeah, that hit he had on that like bubble screen. When he pushed Jordan Love, that was the 3rd possession of the game. All right, that was the last Packer possession of the first half when he shoved Love out of bounds, and then there was like the double penalty. That was the first time Love was on the ground. Like Jordan Love went 2.5 drives with a bright white jersey in the mud. They were not getting to him initially. Super chat from Black Pill Phil, Brock, CMC, Greenlaw bailed out Shanahan in the 4th. The preparations and in-game decisions were terrible and should have cost us the game. John, how about Greenlaw's interception at the end of the game? Refusing to go down? I've already talked about it. So,
guy, he did it twice.
I know.
He did it twice.
The first time, at least the game is happening. Like,
but you're not Deion Sanders. You're not Ed Reed. What was he doing?
I don't know.
The second one was way more.
He clearly blacks out. He just blacks out in a football game, I think.
No, yeah. Guy, he tried to make 17 guys miss on the last play of the game. Even Greg Olson's like, go down!
John, somebody stood up in front of the camera and Greenlaw just disappears behind him. And I swear to God, I expected the ball to be going the other way when the camera, when that person moved.
No, I like Dre Greenlaw, so I give him a little bit of the benefit
You
of
love
the
him.
doubt.
He had the big hit on. He stopped that 4th down and 1.
What do you think of the Trent Williams penalty?
What do you mean? What? Well, I mean, I
The
thought
personal foul?
Trent. Yeah, like first of all, Trent, what are you doing as you jog onto the field? Like, stay out of it. But what killed me about it was the referee who threw the flag, who actually whiffed on the flag 3 times as he was trying to throw it. He was looking at it the whole time, so he should have known the guy flopped, right? And to me, if you don't see it and a guy ends up on the ground, then what are you throwing a flag for? So I thought it was a horse. To me, that's like 90% horse shit on the ref and 10% like, Trent, what are we doing here? Because that really hurt him too, because they punted and it gave Green Bay the ball like midfield because they had such bad starting field position to start that drive.
I thought it was a little ticky-tack, but I do think in these big playoff games, you got to be careful about throwing. It happened multiple times tonight when they're in skirmishes and people are throwing arms.
Well, Greenlaw did it again.
I'm totally cool with not throwing any flags,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like, guys, you cannot fucking push people's faces and risk getting a 15-yard penalty.
Greenlaw
And
did it
anytime
again.
all of
End
a
of
sudden
the
you see a
point.
flag, you're like, oh my God, you're just keeping your fingers crossed, not the other guy.
Tim
Luckily, they don't throw guys out in the playoffs.
Super chat from Sam. 49ers struggled against a young 7th seed team who threw the game away before the Ravens played them.
I do think they're playing at a really high level right now. Like I think Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love. Like, let's be real. The Packers feel way better about their quarterback situation than the 49ers. Right? We talked about it coming into the game. One guy's way more talented. And I'm not some anti-Purdy guy. Right? I just have always said I like my stronger arm quarterbacks. But today was less about arm strength and more about like just grip pressure. You can't grip the ball in a rain. Like, this isn't torrential downpour in Kansas City at 30 degrees. This is 60 degrees and raining. Jordan Love showed no ill effects of throwing the ball, did he?
No, none. I didn't think. I mean, he missed some throws, credit more so to pressure than anything else.
It was glaring tonight. It was glaring tonight with Brock Purdy. Now, ultimately,
John, he could have thrown 4 or 5 interceptions in this game.
Easily.
And he
Amy
knew
Trask would have been one of the all-time winners.
The problem wouldn't have changed. I know, but that would have been a bullshit victory.
I know, but you throw 4 picks or whatever in a playoff game.
I know.
It would have been hard to shake.
Part of the problem was he knew it, and you could tell that he knew it, and he didn't. Now, this is where you said it earlier, you got to give Brock some credit on this. Like, he's had some games where he is rattled and still makes some plays. The Cleveland game.
I agree. I don't have any question marks with his intangibles, his mental fortitude. It's like his hands just aren't big enough. Right? It's just a math equation. Like, seriously, it's just what we talk about at the combine. It's one of those basic things like, this guy's too slow to play corner. This guy's hands would be a problem in inclement weather. Or if you're the Packers, like the Packers couldn't function with a quarterback like that, right? Where they play.
Yeah. And like the Dolphins might not be able to function in the postseason if they're not the 1 seed every year.
No.
Now, I think Brock's better than Tua, but
I do too. But can Tua grip the ball when it's raining? Like, Brock can't grip it, guy. He can't grip it or
doesn't stop him from ripping it.
Well, no, Kyle calls unlimited passes all night.
Matthew, super chat. It's raining. Let's throw it 39 times.
I can't get over the game plan of just the passes.
I had a feeling because what was it, the Seattle game last year where he comes out in the rain? I've talked about it before. He throws on first down, flutter, and I'm like, oh God. And then Kyle threw it again down the field. He hit Ayuk on the second play of the game, and it just
what's he trying to prove in that situation?
I don't know if he's trying to prove something so much as maybe he's trying to get cute. Maybe he's just getting cute.
For what?
I don't know. He's got Christian McCaffrey.
I don't get it.
No reason to get cute. Hey, everybody, if you're here right now on YouTube Live, hit that like button. If you're watching it later, hit that like button as well. Appreciate that. Forecast right now looks okay. Jauan Jennings, big game for Jauan Jennings.
He's a good player.
I won't repeat too much stuff that I said before you got here, but Chris Conley, I talked to Chris Conley in the locker room this week just not even about this, obviously. Good dude.
Chris, cool guy. Haberman, are you ready if Debo Samuel breaks his shoulder?
Exactly. He was born on the same Air Force base. He was on the same Air Force base as I was in like 1995.
Seriously?
In Turkey. He was born there. Yeah. So I just talked to him about that, but this is where you give him credit, give that guy credit and give Brock credit. John, they have not. That's the first pass that Brock has completed to Chris Conley this year. Chris has 3 catches. They all came with Darnold. Now, you tell me this. I didn't have the answer to this, but maybe you have a better idea. The only time that Brock throws to Conley is during drills, right? Because there's 3 quarterbacks, they rotate in, and then the receivers line up, the tight ends line up on both sides. There's 2 quarterbacks throwing at the same time, and there's 2 lines of receivers. So maybe he's thrown to Conley a few times there, right? They'll start practice with that. But in 11-on-11, maybe he's thrown to Conley a couple times, but Brock and Conley probably are not on the field together at the same time.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many times they've connected in practice. It can't be that many. And they have not connected all year long. And then in the biggest drive of the year, they are on the same page. How do you explain that?
Well, I mean, it's just a relatively basic route, right? You're running an 8-yard out route or 10-yard out route or whatever these guys, Chris Conley is a Kansas City Chief, right? He's played in a pretty high level organization. You just kind of, I don't know, fall back on, we're running a route, hit him at this 3 yards back or 5 yards back. When I let the ball go, you break at the spot. I mean, these guys, it's why you lean on veterans from places. Think about this. Ray, Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Chris Conley, Kansas City Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
You feel offensively, they're not going random guys here. Even Willie Snead, Sean Payton, and the New Orleans Saints for a while. He's not going rando veteran player. Like he's more likely to go Chris Conley than I think he would even his own young guy. He didn't go Ronnie Bell there, right? Chris Conley has been relied upon by Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill looking at him, right? In fucking spots, massive, in freezing cold. He is a guy that you feel pretty good about in that situation. Same thing with Ray. Like Ray played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like Ray has been good for the 49ers. I feel confident with Ray McLeod out in the game, don't you? Ray does not feel to me like a rando. Like Ambry Thomas feels like he's off right now, but I've seen Ambry Thomas play in these games. Like you kind of got to play through it. Like a lot of people are saying, this gets back to Logan Ryan out there, not Jair Brown.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, guys, I'm not a huge fan of just like rolling with, but what does Logan Ryan have? Well, I played for Belichick. I played for Vrabel. I've played in big games. And are they relying on that more than like, this is a guy that might be your starting player next year? I don't.
Yeah, does Jair Brown?
I mean, there's not a right or wrong answer on some of these.
No,
questions.
But like you do wonder, does Jair Brown on that touchdown pass that Logan Ryan had his back turned on the goal line? It was like that pass to the pylon. He just waves his arm. Does Jair Brown with more athleticism make a play there that Logan Ryan? He gets bumped off. Keith says, you guys bitched about McCaffrey's carries all year. Yeah, in the second half against the Jags.
Yes, in this. This is not like I'm not reacting because I had money on it. I'm reacting simply because this was a situation where the quarterback was literally struggling to grip the football. And Greg Olsen, who has fucking been around high-level football since the early 2000s when he played for the elite Miami Hurricanes, was like, hey, Kevin, this guy is struggling to grip the ball. All of us, my mother's texting me like, what's going on with his passes? You literally have the best running back. Just what does a run game do sometimes? Settles everything down. What did the Green Bay Packers do for Jordan Love? They hammered the run early on. Kyle Shanahan's whole thing, greatest run game. I listened to LaFleur. Was it LaFleur that said this? Or was it someone else I listened to? There was, Schlereth. I listened to Schlereth with Russillo. He said that he does consulting on the side. And he said last offseason, he said probably 10 plus offensive coordinator / O-line coaches wanted the lowdown on the Shanahan run scheme because they know Stink knows it, right? Kyle, Mike Shanahan guy. And he's like, what makes it great and why they are the best running team in the NFL is they can run the same exact play, like outside zone, with like 8 different personnel groups and 7 different blocking schemes. They can hit with Juszczyk and Kittle. They can loop you with the right tackle and kick you out from the inside. They can just do it all these different ways. And tonight, at different times in the season, we're like, hey, Kyle, spread it out in nice weather games. And Purdy's cooking. Like, why don't you spread it out and throw it? It's raining. And even the broadcasts are like, it's really coming down now. And Kyle's like, Andy Reid, Cliff Kingsbury, 4-5 wide. Let's fucking throw the pill. It was crazy. It was the opposite of everything he did all season long. It's the opposite of, like, I would say, to me, when you have a coach, you have an identity. Like, I had someone text me who's a pretty high up guy in the league during the Eagles-Bucks game. He's like, the downfall ultimately of this Eagles team is like they truly have no identity. They have absolutely nothing to hang their hat on. Defense is a joke, and their offense is like, what is it? The one thing you say with the 49ers, like, their defense is physical, even when they're giving up some run plays and their D-line's not getting home, but they'll hit you. And they will fucking shove the ball down your throat running the ball. And then the night, they're like, Peyton Manning 5 wide to start the game in a rainstorm. And as he's like throwing the ball all over the place, one thing I will give Kyle credit for is like he will be pretty stubborn with the run. He was like, I'm 2nd and 5, no fucking chance. Spread it out. Consistently all night. I was like, well, maybe McCaffrey's hurt, but he's out there the whole time. They're throwing, like you said, 15 fucking targets or whatever.
They're just keeping him loose, I thought. I didn't think he was hurt.
He literally had their touchdowns he had tonight. 2. One was like 35-yard touchdown. The other one was a broken tackle into the end zone, the game winner.
How about this?
Like one of the best
how about
players
this bizarre stat? These guys, they made like no explosive plays all night, and yet it was they made a couple of them. I found this one. I found it. My buddy Ryan McGrady texted this one to me. And I was like, they can't use this. First time the Niners have ever had a 30-plus yard touchdown rush and a 30-plus yard touchdown pass in a playoff game, ever. So, like, a couple times they hit a play, but it just felt like the Packers were hitting plays consistently and the Niners were not hitting plays consistently. They had no rhythm. And where do you go for rhythm on this team? You go to the run game. Like, historically for Kyle, you go to the run game. And the other thing with Kyle, historically, being down by 7 never usually doesn't stop him from running the football, right? Being down 7 doesn't stop him from running the ball.
Or when it's 7-6, right?
Yeah.
It's just like 13-7 to him feels like a tie game or they're in the lead. And he was very like, he was like allergic to running the football, it felt like. He was very hesitant to rely on just going 3 straight runs to get a first down. I don't have it in front of me. It feels like he did not even attempt to do that tonight.
To go 3 straight runs?
It felt like he threw a lot on first down, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It did.
And in the shotgun spread out.
They went to a lot more shotgun than just the play action game is what it felt
which
like.
Isn't that crazy in a rainstorm? In a driving rainstorm relative to where you live. With a quarterback who's clearly struggling. Like,
I can see it. You're not in desperation time yet.
I'd say it was pretty evident early. Like, this quarterback's a little uncomfortable in this scenario.
John, the second he came out with the glove is when you recognize like he's not comfortable. That tells you everything you need to know. And the Niners, they were not comfortable. They were the ones slipping on the field. How? Why? Like they
slipped too, though. The other team,
they did slip too eventually. But like Gibson slipped on the touchdown. Greenlaw slipped on a big play early. Not having Debo hurt the game plan. Christopher Super Chat. I mean, no question, right? The play they ran to Debo, he got hurt on, was a pretty sweet play. Like double motion and like Juice was out there.
One across the middle.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, since you mentioned Schlereth, shout out to RG3, the only guy who could hold down an offense with McVay, Shanahan, LaFleur, McDaniels, and Slowick on it. You know, Jay Gruden's like Jay Gruden won like 45% of his games without RG3. Shockingly. I texted a guy who was with the night. What night was that? Was that Saturday night? No. Today's Saturday. Friday night?
Yeah.
No.
That might have been Thursday night, yeah.
A buddy of mine was with somebody at the time who was on that team. And I was like, hey, ask him whose side he's on. And he replied 1,000% Jay's side.
You see Shady McCoy?
What did Shady say?
Jay keeping it 100. Nothing I hate more than like, listen, Jason Garrett, I don't think people think he's a bad guy, but he's a bad coach. But just bad guys that then, when they're in a sport, coach or player who then transition to the media and know how to play the game. And RG3 has mastered it, and everyone is kind of blowing him. And then he finally kind of gets called out by someone in the inner circle of like, you're a complete fraud. And everyone in the business is like, this is fuck. Everyone's sharing tweets and sharing. Even Will Compton, who was on the team, he's like, yeah, there's a lot of things that I think Robert would like to have back. Everyone knows no one likes RG3, but on TV, RG3 in his mind has become the star. Everyone likes him. But like people kind of forget that he was despised internally by teams. Not like the coach didn't think he could function in offense. Like people did not like the person, but he plays the game perfectly and he kind of reinvents himself. And then it kind of comes up and you could tell it like struck a nerve with him. And I saw Jay even kind of walked it back. Like, listen, I'm not going to argue with the guy. Like, I don't remember.
Before after he said, go race a pigeon.
That was after. He did delete the tweet of saying
like,
that
fuck,
nobody wanted him.
Get a phone into John. Somebody get John Gruden on the Twitter. Because John Gruden would just be priceless.
How many coaches involved with the Redskins, the McDaniels, McVay, LaFleur brothers, Kyle, Forrester, Mike's, that whole crew and everyone off their lineage, quality control guys were sharing tweet threads over the last 48 hours. Every single one
had to be all. I bet those threads had never been hotter.
Was Cousins linked on any of them, you think, with the coaches, or probably not?
Oh yeah. Definitely. Because Cousins and Kyle, like, you think McVay likes Cousins or LaFleur or
yeah, they have to like him a lot.
Slowick probably busy, Kyle busy. You think their phones are just blowing up as they're busy, or do you think
they got it? They got it forwarded to them though, for sure. They got it.
Those guys like
by Thursday and Friday.
Yeah. I've seen some people in the chat saying Brock's hand size, and I got a text from researcher Ryan here. 9 1/4 inch. Mahomes, Baker, Garoppolo, bigger than Burrow, Goff, Fields, Carr, Tannehill. I think I'm defending Brock. I'm not defending Brock tonight, but I don't care about what his hand measurement is. I just watched the game. He was uncomfortable in the rain. You know what I mean? Like I don't care about his hand measurement right now.
Well, exactly. Like, yeah, Mahomes has smaller hands. I've seen him in enough games. He's unfazed.
Now, here's the other thing. I also don't care about him in the rain if you tell me it's not raining next week and the Super Bowl's indoors. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, that's another version. That's another problem. I do think in the playoffs.
It is a big picture conversation, though.
It is a big picture conversation. No, there's no question. It's a big picture conversation. But, like, I don't know what's going to happen next week. And I don't know if they're going to win the Super Bowl. I picked them. And you're right. A lot of people did. And you're right. You feel worse about it today. You just have to feel worse about it today. But when you win playoff games, conference championship games are so hard to get to. The reason they got to this conference championship game, the reason they're even in this position is because they had a hell of a regular season, because they were a really good team. They were one of the best teams in the NFL in the regular season. And a bad win in the divisional round, I don't think wipes that out. I just think history tells us they are more likely to be a better version than they were in this game. And they won this game somehow, some way. Some way.
Well, if you look at it from the NCAA tournament, right? Sometimes you win a crazy game in the Sweet 16, and then all of a sudden you're in the Final Four. Like, who cares about the game in the Sweet 16? I think the concerning part is like their run defense is not very good. They did not have a sack tonight. And honestly, it felt like a lot of times they don't create that much pressure, right? Relative to like a team that hangs their hat on a defensive line, it doesn't feel like their defensive line is a separating factor.
Let me say this. I think they create statistical pressure. You know what I mean? For about a half. Well, even for about a half, I was in the first half. I logged it in the first half. Then too much shit started happening. Then I stopped logging pressures. GFF. He had 16 attempts in the first half and 7 pressures. That's pretty good, right? I would say. But 1 hit.
Well, the one thing is like for next week, he can move. Goff can't I mean, that's he
that's
can
a golf
kind of
thing.
scramble out. So it's like, yeah, if you pressure him a little bit, he can scramble out to the right or left.
But I do think sometimes with this defense, they get like, if you're logging, you're like, yeah, pressure. Oh, well, he was 4 of 7 against the pressure with with 2 out of bounds throws. And so it didn't, you know what I mean? Like, they get pressure, but are they hitting him as he's throwing the football? There's not a lot of that kind of pressure, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. So they do get pressure by the numbers, but then when you watch the game, you go, how much did they affect him really on that play? But, that's an AFC quarterback problem now. That's not a Goff problem. Although I do think Goff has, the game that Cousins played against him. And I don't think Goff does not beat this team. They have owned Goff because he just can't move. But he does have like a light version of the game that Kirk Cousins played against him, where he just sliced and diced them from the pocket. I'll give Goff, he can play a version of that game. Not quite the Kirk version, but he can play a version of that game. And they've got part of it. He has go-to. He's got Matt Laporta, go-to. He's got St. Brown, go-to. Like, he's got guys he can just fucking go to, and they got a good offensive line.
Running backs can catch.
Yeah, it's.
I would say one thing, listen, critical of the defense, because I think we hold them to such a high standard, is if you hold them 2 field goals, not touchdowns, I don't care who the fuck you are, that's the goal. And 2, if you get turnovers. I mean, they got 2 picks tonight, right? So if you can play shitty games, if you play good red zone defense and you get turnovers and win the turnover battle, like, you're in pretty good shape, right? Now, they dropped, I forget when that first pick dropped to 26, but I mean, holy shit, he hit him right in the hands. I mean, Purdy, that's remember the pick he threw that, I mean, it got dropped, but I mean, he literally
the first drive, he threw the ball to Savage on the first drive.
I mean, Savage, it hits him in stride, right? So and this is where the PFF guys do have some validity to their argument. There is a randomness to drops and picks, and like, it equals out over time. Like, if you throw that 5 times, it is going to get picked 3 of the 5 times, right? So 2 of them will just be incompletions, like on a night like tonight. Like, if that happens next week, it might be picked to Winfield or CJ Gardner-Johnson or whoever, right? But that's one of those, like, yeah, it's football. You get fooled. Like, I'm not even, I have more issue with how scared I am when it rains of Purdy not being able to grip the ball than that play. Like, that happens to Tom Brady. I looked at some of his games against the Ravens because I'm arguing with 8 million people in the Ravens fucking firing at me Twitter because I got Old Take Exposed.
Well, you got Ravens exposed because you said that they were because D'Amico was kicking their ass in the first half.
Yeah, why doesn't it stamp it like this is a first half tweet, which was a fact?
Yeah, that's actually a good call. You should be able to do that.
Yeah, maybe I'll just do it myself moving forward, like hashtag first half.
As of the first half, D'Amico's kicking their ass. We'll see what happens in the second half. It just
I went back because people were like, well, Flacco carried John Harbaugh to Super Bowls. And then I went back. They picked Tom Brady off several times in different matchups. No one remembers, like, when you go back in 5-10 years, you just look at the box score. It's like, oh, he threw 2 touchdowns and no picks. Or he threw 0 touchdowns and 3 picks. Right? But there is a randomness to, like, Jesus, it felt like it got to the point tonight where you were holding your breath as the ball was flying around. And you were not, I was holding my breath when Jordan Love would throw it that it was going to be completed. And that experience hasn't happened very often with Brock Purdy, right?
Mm-mm.
That to me was the most alarming part. And like you said, the rain, an outlier situation, it doesn't rain that much. This is not the AFC. So is it just like, I don't think he's overwhelmed. I think he just legitimately can't grip the ball. And now anytime they play in a regular season game or clearly a playoff game where there's inclement weather, I think you just hold on to your fucking nuts. Because
the question will be, are they playing in those games with a guy who's got a ring or not?
But no way around it. Like, I do think, like, if they win this game, the next game, I think we look at the situation a little different, right? We'll see how next week looks. But I mean, tonight was a glaring experience, was it not? When it came to the quarterback, because I think there are so many other variables about money and franchise.
Sure, but those are you're trying to win every year. You are trying to win a Super Bowl, and now you are 1 win away from playing in the Super Bowl, right?
Totally agree.
No, I know you do, but like the number of perfect quarterbacks out there, How many are there right now? One.
But I think the difference is, like, you watch tonight, the other guy has a shitload of talent oozing out of his body, right? Like a lot of physical gifts that kid has, like pretty special physical characteristics.
Sure.
And you saw Purdy tonight. Like when the weather comes, he looks like a pump. He just folds, not because he folds like he's overwhelmed. He like can't function.
Yeah, I mean,
even the play he hit to Jauan Jennings, Greg Olsen was like, "I'll be honest, Kevin. I thought in the booth that was picked."
He also said he thought,
"Hey, Greg, I did too."
But he also said it was his best throw of the day because he did put it right where it had the only place it could be. It was a good throw.
You agree?
You're calling it a lucky throw, huh?
I'm saying Greg Olsen said that.
Yeah, I didn't feel good about it, but it turned out that risky throw was his best throw of the day.
Did he mean for it to go there?
Well, I mean,
I would say typically,
on a day when you look
tonight,
good,
I don't know.
On a day when you look good, we assume you did. On a day when you look bad, we go, maybe you got lucky. But he makes that throw a ton. He makes that throw all the time, layers it over somebody.
For sure.
It's a risky throw. I just think that at this point, like he has done a lot more good. He's done too much good to have that wipe it out. Sometimes some guys don't play well on the road in the rain or at home in the rain or just on the road in the cold or whatever. So you hope you can avoid those situations. But Super Bowls are played indoors and in good weather for the most part now, right?
Well, in theory, you get home field advantage. You have a huge advantage weather-wise.
In theory.
California. Tonight was a driving rainstorm, and the guy was barely gripped the football.
I know, but to me, like tonight's game it might just be the heart attack that you had before you started eating healthy. And for them, it's bounce back and win next week and go to the Super Bowl and worry about this another day. So, yeah, in the grand scheme of like quarterback prospects, it's a great example. Part of your point, I think, is like this is the reason we talk about this stuff. When other people go, oh, the scouts are just wasting their time on stupid details. There's no question about it. But there are things that we'll see. Like Jordan Love's on a good trajectory right now. We'll see if in 5 years he's the franchise quarterback that we all think he's going to be. Not that we all think he's going to be, that he might be. But we don't. I mean, guys have looked good for a year or 2 years, and you go, but look at this skill set. Look at that skill set. We'll see. This guy's got a lot of other things.
I thought he showed himself pretty well tonight. Like he was the best quarterback on the field.
Brock's got a lot of other things about him that are better than some guys that can really let it rip in the rain, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not writing the guy off acting like he sucks. I'm not going Amy Trask here. I just thought it was a roller coaster experience tonight. And like you said, Peyton Manning had a lot of shitty games in the rain, and he made up for it in games that weren't in the rain and won a lot of big games in other spots. And over the course of his career, he became, I think, what most people consider probably top 3 or 4 quarterback of all time. And he was not by any means, if you're like torrential downpour, crazy snowstorm, game on the line, $50,000 life savings or whatever, put it on the line. His name is not coming up in the first 7 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we all acknowledge, like, remove that situation. Name the best 5 quarterbacks of all time. Every single human names them. So, yeah, there are individual situations, but, like, it is football, and at any moment things can change. And, like, I think why you like them is because of the mental fortitude, why the guys believe in them. But back to, like, the 40 time. I don't think Debo's viewed as John Ross, right, or some crazy super fast guy at the combine.
Yeah.
But everyone acknowledges, like, Debo on the field with the ball in his hand is one of the fastest players in the NFL.
Except on kickoff return.
But, like, on screens and plays, crossing routes, his speed is elite. And sometimes, like, Mahomes, we do this a lot with hand size. Like, some guys' hand size, like, we list 7 different guys. No one brings that up in Kansas City. Like, I think because we've seen him now play 15 inclement weather games.
Finger flexibility is a thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, was it Pedro Martinez part of his thing? His fingers were longer. Why he could throw a little longer?
But I'm saying, just because you have the same hand size doesn't mean your hands work the same way, right? Yeah. I'm no mono doctor, but La Manos.
I mean, I just think that. I mean, I'm not trying to. They were very lucky to be in that situation. I mean,
but
so many plays coming to my front of my mind of like Ayuk getting open, ball out, Kittle getting open, ball way out in front. Like, ball's not even close. It was crazy. That's one of the craziest wins I've ever been a part of.
Well, what grade would you give him? What was Brock's grade?
C-.
He won with his C- game today.
But he didn't win.
Right? No, he did not win. But he also did win.
The kicker missed a kick.
So did yours.
Yeah, it was 47 yards. He's going to miss that, it feels like, most of the time.
But I'm just saying, John, like, you did win the game. So it was good enough to lose sometimes, but it wasn't good enough. It wasn't bad enough to lose today.
But you were a 10-point favorite.
You just proved your team. Like, part of this team is built on good offensive players, good coach, good defense. Like, that's who they are. Whether Brock Purdy's good in the rain or not, that's probably what he's going to need. That's what most guys need.
Help.
Right? Help. So today, he got help. And luckily, they got enough help on this team. And I know they get expensive. If we're talking big picture, yeah, they get more expensive. They've had just rosters like this this is a Shanahan roster.
Yeah, for sure.
They'll have a version.
I mean, Jauan Jennings is an unreal third receiver.
Yeah, they're going to pay IU. Like, so to me, the bigger concern, the more immediate concern coming out of the game is they are for a team that has so many good players, just losing one of them feels like it changes them on offense.
He is an elite player, though.
He is an elite player. Yeah, but like, so is Kittle, so is Ayuk, so is McCaffrey.
I know, but Debo's proven to be like one of the great, true, like, war daddy in the peak of the powers, like in January in like the last couple decades. Like, he's a special, special player. That's a huge. I think if you remove Brandon Ayuk, for as awesome as he is, this could be the argument. Like, if you're building a team, Debo, like McCaffrey, they are pretty important to your whole operation.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The question is, like, if you removed Ayuk, it feels like they take a step back too. Well, obviously, you take a step back when you remove a great player, but it feels like they take 3 steps back when you take one of these guys away. Like, they're just so injury dependent. It's crazy. Like, look at the games they've almost lost or lost this year. It's like, one of their best players got hurt. That's it. That's what happened.
Well, I think their coach is very, a unique game planner, right? So, like, he's the offensive coordinator, and his players, especially several of them, are very, I would say, versatile. They can do a ton of things. And once you remove that guy, it throws off several, like, he has plays to set up other plays. Like, in what world is he running that Jauan Jennings handoff if it wasn't based on some other play in the future? Like, how does that make any sense? Like, how is that not like, well, my car's out of gas. I guess I can't make it, to the party tonight. And he's like, well, I'm still going to try to walk there. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Go ahead and set that play up against the Lions and see if
what are you doing? Yeah, but he ran that for a reason, right? Because in fairness to the boy genius, he is like a big picture thinker with his play calls. Because otherwise, in the moment, in a vacuum, in a short-sighted situation, it made no sense. Debo's in a sweatshirt with a headset, and like, you put Jauan Jennings, it wouldn't have been as crazy to do Ray McLeod, right? Because Ray's done some substitution for Debo, right? Running some end arounds. Mm-hmm. They gave it to Jauan Jennings. We texted. Is that the craziest play he's ever ran?
I think it is.
But why did he do that? Because I do think that's off something else that he is planned part of the sequence, which is what makes him a special coach. And that's why all these guys love him. It's like he has these like 7 things. But sometimes when the first couple don't work, it's hard to justify the 7th if you're never going to end up getting there and everyone's watching like, God, what the fuck was that for? That's where I think the head scratcher was on a situation like that. And I think Debo, like Christian, are so scheme specific. You can do so much with them. When you've spent the last couple weeks implementing all this stuff, and then the guy leaves in whatever, basically the first drive of the game, it really derails him. Debo really derails him in a weird way because I think he's so game plan specific. I think you could argue Debo derails him the most of any player.
Yeah, because they'll still
that's what it felt like tonight.
They'll still just downhill run Mitchell. They'll run some of the same stuff to Mitchell, right? If McCaffrey were out.
Exactly.
I mean, it feels like Kittle would
impact the run
in
game,
theory.
like the
Yeah.
plays. But like they have specific plays for Debo that are going to based off other plays, and then he'll like still run them, and you're like, what is he trying to do here? I don't know, man. That Jauan Jennings thing was weird. I give Jauan credit; he ran it as hard as he could.
He ran it like a champ, John. This is a good point on Love's game. How about the Brett Favre legacy throw at the end of the game? Is this the ramification of a QB tree? Super chat. I mean, can you be the better quarterback if one of them leads a game-winning drive and you throw a pick? Now, in his defense, 51 seconds puts a little pressure on, but it was first down. It was a crazy throw. The Greenlaw interception. Across his body, knuckleball. Now, he probably thought 50-50 ball to Greenlaw. Is he really going to catch that ball? But yeah, it turns out the answer is yes. With an arm, with his arm, robo arm. Super chat Brad says Fred Warner constantly out of position, constantly over pursuing. When he did hit a gap, people bounced off him. He is a liability, horrible. He has a liability, horrible game. I thought he made some big plays in the run game.
He did get blocked a decent amount, which I mean, it's football. He gets blocked.
That's part of the job of your interior defense too, to like let your linebackers run free. Hargrave had he did have a big pressure in the red zone that I remember, but
a lot of MIA from him.
Yeah. Revenant super chat. I'm wondering if the game plan focused on Debo and his injury through the play calling off, throw in the rain, and yeah. I mean, you'd have to. Yes, it does feel that way. Because the other thing is, John, when Debo goes out, they still, to your point, like, how about we just scrap the Debo plays? We don't need to run them to even Ray. Let's just do. We got Kittle and Ayuk. Let's give the ball to them. We don't need to run the Ray end around just because that's what you were going to run to Debo.
I would say the Love interception was one of the first times where it felt like his ball looked like Purdy's ball. It kind of came out like a duck.
Yeah.
It did not come. It came out of his hand really weird and just kind of floated in the air.
And that it was wet. I also thought he's rolling right, trying to
tough
to, like,
throw.
when you try to power the ball,
yeah.
You throw it, it doesn't spin the way you want it to. But
they had a couple timeouts. You could argue like you don't need to force it there. That is,
I think you would argue you don't need it. Even Olsen's like just
throw
it away.
You do not. That's why ultimately you get a guy who's never been in this situation in a tight spot. Right, like if this is week 10, you're like, oh fuck, Packers feel good about themselves. In these playoff situations, you have no room for error. He gets a little tight. He kind of tries to make a play. All of a sudden, Greenlaw thinks he's fucking Deion Sanders. Again, I can't get over Greenlaw. Like he kept at one point in time, you're like, is he still running? What is he doing? And then even when he ends, he like bends back. You're like, Dre, you came into this game questionable.
You know what the move is there? I was talking to a buddy of mine who's like a radio play-by-play guy today. And he said the other day he was doing a college basketball game and the game was close late. And he gets his phone and on his phone he texts. It's like him and then his analyst sits next to him and then the engineer, the guy who controls the microphones. And he texts his engineer. He says, if we hit a game winner, turn his mic off. So he's not yelling over the call, right? And like to me, that's where the Niners are like, somebody fucking tackle Dre Greenlaw.
But you
like one of your own guys.
What if you jolt the ball out?
Would that be the worst play in the history of the sport?
Well, what
Force
happened
a fumble on your own guy?
What was the play? The Packers kick return after the 49er was when they scored, and then they took it. It felt like they were taken to the house, and the guy cut it back, and then all of a sudden the 49er tackles him from behind, and the ball bounces out, and you're like, oh my God. And then the Packer guy leaps, and it lands right into his body as he's flying through the air. And the ref went like this before the dog pile was even like half over.
He left no hope on the recovery.
It was sweet. He flew this, and the oblong, spear long, whatever the fuck the ball's called, it flew right into his chest. Because it's one of those classic, if it bumps a little high, could have bounced off his. He flew like this, and it just went right into him. Incredible effort. Like that guy, if they had won the game, that special teams coach, LaFleur, I mean, he's top 5 play of the game. I mean, that guy's effort of just leaping through the air. Because they're like 5 Niners. It felt like this is going to be the most incredible turnover of all time.
Like it's going to bounce right into somebody's arms.
And then this Green Bay guy flies right through him in the air.
Which never works.
Ever. It flew right into his breadbasket.
Darcy, super chat. People wanted a comeback from Purdy. You don't have a comeback if you're playing great. So isn't that a double standard on Purdy?
Well,
The
I would push
Montana,
back
the
on that a
catch
little
game,
bit.
the catch game, he threw 3 picks, John. You'd prefer it to be a 42-38 shootout. Yeah, I get it. But how do you kind of let the legend grow, right? Tiger can't make a winning putt unless he had a bogey somewhere, probably.
I felt like Montana kind of hit the ground running after that the catch game. Montana won the Super Bowl that year.
Maybe this was his catch game.
Hope so.
Super chat. If LaFleur takes the field goal in the first, this game theoretically goes to overtime. Analytics movement getting absurd. No young coach seems to want free points. Oh, on the 4th and 1. You could argue like, hey man, I know we.
Do you think he got that?
I did, yeah.
You don't think it was his head that looked?
I don't know. But if you're just asking what I don't think you could have. They would not have won a challenge. I texted you right away. Like, he's got a challenge, but then you probably couldn't have told where the ball was. But if you're just asking what I think happened, I think he got the first down.
It was close. The head was over. It was hard to tell where the ball was. And the moment the referees don't, whatever the referees go with, it's hard to overturn that in that situation. Right?
Yeah. Those spots are always, you just can't see the ball.
His head was over. It was hard. The ball to me looked like it wasn't, but it was close. It was close for sure. They tried the tush push and it didn't work. They literally got in the same fucking formation. Shows you got to have a quarterback that, squats 600 pounds to make it for sure. It's not as easy as those guys make it look.
And Kelsey.
Purdy one time went under one guy's legs, like shot through.
He did. They thought he was going to, because I think they thought he was going to.
I did too.
It was going to be a run play. There was nobody there.
Then all of a sudden he's like barrel rolling like 3 yards in the left.
How about the Niners touchdown run to McCaffrey? 0 on the play clock. And I posted the photo, and a lot of people.
You get half a second though, don't you?
So my point is not that they the way it played out was the way it normally plays out in the NFL. There's a 0 but it just illuminates the fact that the entire world operates with 1s and 0s a certain way, and the NFL operates a completely different way. Like in baseball, you don't make the last out of the game. They're like, well, you get one more out. Because a lot of people like, it's common. You got to the 0 is another second. And it's not. It's not another second. Things are over at 0, right? Things end at 0. You don't get a snooze button on a fucking play clock.
Well-established rule, though. You get the half second.
It's just. But sometimes the flag does come out there, right? It's not 100% of the time it goes that way. Would you agree with that?
It was close.
Yeah, it's just they caught a break. They caught a break. It could have gone the other way. And here's the thing: close. If they had thrown the flag, you wouldn't really have a leg to stand on. Like, no, we're allowed that much 0. You don't get a leg to stand on in that spot.
I think my favorite part about sports, obviously, I was very indebted to this game and really, really wanted the 49ers to win and was miserable the majority of it. But tonight, if you put yourself in the shoes, literally of Kyle Shanahan or Matt LaFleur, I don't think either of them sleep. Because it's one of those situations where I think Kyle's I can't fucking believe we won that game. Because there had to be moments, I don't care how these guys are good at talking and acting like they're unfazed, where it had to cross his mind, I'm going to lose as the number 1 seed at home.
To my buddy.
To my buddy that was my quarterback coach. I'm going to lose to that guy whose brother I employed. I'm going to lose to LaFleur after I've beat him twice once as a major underdog. And I'm a huge favorite in this game. Not that
everyone was laughing at the Cowboys last week. Haha, you lost to the Packers. Now I'm going to do that.
Exactly. I don't care. Even when when that would cross his mind is when the defense is on the field and he has some time to kind of think. And as LaFleur / every Packer fan / the Packers players, they had to be thinking a decent amount of time in the beginning of the 4th quarter, we're really going to pull this upset off. So you just stare at the wall you can't believe the outcome. Even if you're a Trent Williams or whatever, you're kind of in the game, maybe we'll figure this out. We'll figure that. Kyle had to be thinking, I'm going to lose this game. To me, there's no John Lynch for sure. Jed the whole time. Jed's no different than me and you and everyone watching this. But Kyle,
Adam Peters is in Washington, like, well, I guess I didn't miss out on much.
Yeah, I mean, do you think I can work with Mike Vrabel? Like, hey, Josh, can we give him $15 million, but make sure I have the personnel power? That's one of the crazier games. I think
Is it crazier than the game they won in Green Bay? Different.
Yeah, different because that was more of a Hail Mary. Like the Niners didn't deserve to win that game. Like the Packers were legitimately outplaying them. So you're like, if the Packers are going to win this game, you feel like they earned it. And the Niners, what the fuck is this? The weather plays a huge factor in that game. I guess obviously the weather plays a factor in tonight's game, but I feel that was different. Shocking ending, shocking result. I mean, once they blocked the punt and Hufanga scores, obviously, I watched the YouTube clip of when Robbie Gould's like, hell yeah, and Jimmy's like, fuck the Packers, and they hug, and that was more, I feel, euphoric than this probably had to be.
First of all, you're not the favorite. You're on the road.
Guy, they were 6.5 point underdog.
So there's that. The other thing is, I think Green Bay, that day there felt
the block punt like was crazy. That individual play was the craziest play of the two games. You agree with that?
The block punt, yeah.
The block punt's the craziest play of all the Kyle Shanahan era. Good. The Tyreek Hill is the bad.
Yeah. Wasp. I think that one of the other differences was today, it felt like there was a bigger gap between how good the Packers were and how good the 49ers were than there was in that other game, right?
Yeah.
Like it felt like the Packers deserved to win this game.
Yeah.
Haters. AJK says, Super Chat, give the Niners some slack. Packers offense had been on fire. Love was 21 touchdowns, 1 pick. Add 2 more tonight. 3 red zone trips into 6 points. Defense made plays. There is something to be said for like, hey, every game you watch, somebody's Ambry Thomas gets burned and somebody misses a tackle and somebody gets wide open, right? That is football. It's true. There's some truth to that. But the problem with Thomas right now is it feels like if it's 3rd and 15, all you should do is throw a goal ball to whoever he's covering, right?
Well, I've said forever, like even back to the Richard Sherman days, like every team in the NFL, if you have Richard Sherman or Deion Sanders, Darrelle Revis in their prime, usually the second corner and definitely the third corner leave you a lot to be desired. Like, who are the corners for the Packers? Like, they weren't exactly rolling out Al Harris, in his prime. Like, what are we talking about? Like, that's part of football. And I agree with the commenter about ultimately the defense. It's not like they gave up 40 points and the Niners had to win 43-40, right? Tonight was really much more to me. Like their defense, it feels bad because of the expectation we have for them. But like I said, they created field goals instead of touchdowns. They got turnovers. Like, honestly, I think if you're Steve Wilkes, you fucking walk in feeling pretty good. Well, fuck, it wasn't my group's fault. Like, we made plays, big plays in the red zone, and obviously the 2 turnovers with Dre Greenlaw. I think the offense is the bigger issue. Now, the defense, the run defense, because you can control the clock and then limit the 49ers possessions. And that's how it felt. Like, what was that first drive by the Packers? 7 minutes? Like, God, are the Niners going to have 7 possessions in this game? And then all of a sudden, Purdy has a bad first possession. You're like, well, fuck. I mean, what if he has 3 or 4 bad possessions? I saw Kawakami wrote, like, Purdy's lost. And again, this is all relative to being the 1 seed and being a guy that almost won the MVP. Like this, it's not relative to like, oh, second-year guy, 7th round pick. This is relative to 1 seed, 12, 13 wins, guy that was going to win the MVP before the Ravens game. Like the standard is pretty high. That's why when we're critical of Kyle, we're not comparing him to Joe Judge, right? Or Nick Sirianni. We're comparing him to like the elite of the elite. Like, is this guy going to win Super Bowls, let alone Super Bowl? Like, this guy's going to go down as one of the great coaches of all time. I'm arguing with people on Twitter about McCarthy and Harbaugh. Like, why doesn't Kyle get shit? Because he's fucking 44. Those guys are 60, and this is his 7th playoff win. For example, John Harbaugh, 60 years old, been coaching since 2008. Tonight was his 12th. Kyle has 5 less playoff wins. He's 16 years younger. Now, I'm not saying Kyle's going to have 30 playoff wins when he's 60, but like he's on a pretty good track. Like we're holding him to really, really high standards. So, yeah, they get held to high standards. Now, like, I think we got to give the Packers their due. Like, they're good. They're hot. They have legitimate people. Like, this is, how many times now have they met in Kyle's run? This is their third time, right? They met in 19. They met in 21. They met again. Like, they're a legit high-level group. Multiple quarterbacks now. Like the 49ers met them multiple quarterbacks. Honestly, they have a lot in common. You would just bet on these two groups, LaFleur, Gutekunst, Kyle, John Lynch. Like, they just know what the fuck they're doing. But I don't know. That I think we had the expectations. Like, it's understandable in negative 10 degrees, the game's going to be weird. A little rain, 60 degrees, like, you shouldn't look that off. I think that's what's fair. I think most people that I know that are diehard 49er fans, obviously I think are more shell-shocked they won, are sitting at home still like, I can't believe we just won that game. Not that,
totally.
Hell yeah, Super Bowl.
Yeah,
see you in Vegas.
Your dick's out.
Yeah, right. This is not, you can't walk around all season, which you've earned, like you're the fucking Yankees or the Shaq and Kobe Lakers, and then have that and still walk around. Like, most people aren't feeling like that right now. Which I wasn't all game, and I felt I had some.
You know what the feeling is like? Did you see that video of the guy? Did you see the video of the guy? I only saw it in my feed. It's former ESPN anchor in highway crash. I'm like, well, this is like when they put on the thing.
I saw, yes, on the Winnebago.
Yeah. So the guy gets ejected from he had just unbuckled his seatbelt. He's riding shotgun. He's riding shotgun in the Winnebago. It's not funny. His wife, he unbuckles his seatbelt just to relax, looks over, notices his wife is asleep, and suddenly the Winnebago goes out of control. He gets ejected from the vehicle. Somehow is okay. Pops up and like
he was going back to take a piss, I think.
Oh, is that what he was about to get up? Okay.
He was about to go walk to the back to go to the bathroom. The reason he unbuckled is like he was about to go take a leak, takes off, because I clicked on it and watched the video, but then I read the article, looks over, she's passed out, and they're headed toward the medium.
He gets ejected.
He might have been in the bathroom because he flew at the back, didn't he?
Oh, okay. He
might have been in the bathroom.
He ends up, it's on the highway.
Yeah.
He's on the median, like just chilling. He's okay. So I don't know if you can laugh about it, but he's okay. He was fine. To me, like, that's kind of the way you probably feel tonight if you were into that game, which is, car crash that you walked away from. That's obviously much more serious.
He did you read his quotes?
He thought he was going to get hit by a car.
We thought he was going to die. He's like, I'm in the middle of the freeway. Like, I'm going to get hit by a car going 60 miles an hour.
Yeah. And when you go to bed after that,
up the 49ers, like you think you're like death crosses your mind, like at the ending of the season crosses your mind.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like so when you go to bed that night, you're not like just euphoric 100%. You're happy, but you are fucking rattled because you just experienced this near death experience. Obviously, that's a real life thing, and this is different. But I think that's the feeling you're describing, is because in your head, John, you lost for a while.
Yeah,
you're mad because you lost, and then you didn't lose because fucking sports are crazy.
You just start thinking, like, is it better to lose in the second round than have what happened last year when you feel like you're already so close to the Super Bowl?
No.
Do you ever look at Kyle the same? This is one of those things you forget, because I saw Bill Simmons like, no one can forget this next August. Because I was like, yeah, by next August, everyone will be like, Kyle's one of the best coaches in the league. The team will be one of the preseason favorites. Everyone will be talking themselves in. And you just forget what happens, right? Like, it happened to Peyton Manning. It's happened to John Harbaugh and Lamar. You just lose these devastating games. Even the Cowboys, right? By next season, they might be 4-1. You're like, hey, everything's okay. You just got to forget. But like, you should never forget this feeling. That's what I kept telling myself. You can never forget this feeling what I'm witnessing, because this is unacceptable.
I love that you're telling yourself that.
Well, it's not like a fireable offense. Like, I don't think like Kyle's not getting fired.
Yeah.
Purdy's not getting benched. But how do you move on from this experience? I guess time.
You don't have time. You just get ready for the next game.
No, I meant like after a loss, you just eventually OTAs come. It's like, well, I've signed some guys in free agency. Look at our new draft pick, this pass rusher from Texas. And then just shit happens.
Yeah.
Because that's what would have happened.
Super chat, Vicky. Kyle had lame play calling tonight. I just don't see this team beating the AFC if they get to the Super Bowl. James said Packers are underrated. Would you rather have Trevor Lawrence game last year or Brock's game tonight? Brock's game tonight. No doubt about that. Is it just me, Ryan, super chat, or is it just me, or does Love look like Mahomes? Same mannerisms and feminine walk. I haven't noticed the walk. I'll watch for Mahomes tomorrow. Something to watch for Mahomes tomorrow, for those of you listening that you can't hear. But Mahomes always does this when he's looking at the sideline for the play call. Or like when he's trying to get people to huddle up, he just does this. Like taps his. It's a weird little tap he does with his hand. Watch him tomorrow.
I'll take the Mahomes feminine walk on my team. That's what he's got going on. You see the report Andy might retire by Florio?
Yeah.
I'd be.
You buy that?
I'd be stunned if the big guy leave. Like, what's he gonna do? Retire for what?
Amazon's play. Ambry's play reminded me of Kyle. Says Ken.
I would understand if he was sick, but do you notice these other guys that are older than him? Like they don't really feel like Pete and Bill were like, "Yeah, I'm cool, I'm done." No one retires when you're making this type of money and successful.
Not having Debo hurt the game plan. A 5 spot from Christopher. Thank you. First time. Oh, I mean, John, have we talked about this since you joined the show?
Is Debo out? That's my question.
I don't know. I'm waiting to find out. How about this, John? If this stat they showed said 0-30, 5 points or more, but I thought the stat was like 0-37, 7 points or more, which it was 7, right?
We kicked the field goal at the start of the fourth quarter.
That's right. So it counted. But nonetheless, I'm just saying, that stat ended on Saturday night. Actually, it didn't end because now it's just 1-30. But pretty dramatic way to end that. God, there's so many super chats here, which is awesome. But how much of the grip issues are related to the UCL injury? Grip strength maybe gets better with time. That's optimistic.
Was it last year in the was it Seattle or Dallas? One of those two games had a little drizzle and it felt like he was struggling to grip the rain. Was it Dallas? Pre-UCL injury. One of the two playoff games had a little rain. Do you remember?
I think it was Dallas. Yeah.
And remember, he had a little vibe the night.
Yeah. Pre-UCL. Yeah, good call. They lack the quality depth. I mean, you can look up in like Sebastian Day and Logan Ryan and so.
I mean, guy, the other team you're playing doesn't exactly. Reggie White ain't coming off the bench.
That's
true. This is football. This is the NFL. This is not. You don't get to go 50 deep here. I mean, it's a fair question, but I think that's really nitpicking. Like, our fourth corner. Yeah, I mean, Ambry Thomas is the starting cornerback for a lot of teams. And right now, tonight's a tough, you could argue also tonight's a tough matchup. But that's kind of the NFL now. I mean, next week, probably a tough matchup. If you got the Lions, I mean, they got Jameson Williams can fly. St. Brown's good. They got wide receivers. Jefferson's a good player. I mean, they're good. You play good teams with good wide receivers, they're going to throw it a lot. Those wide receivers, I felt early on, I'm like, is he about to throw for 400 yards? What was up with the blown coverages? When does that happen to the Niners?
Yeah, I mean, well, one of them was a slip. Although I don't know if Gibson was getting over there on that touchdown anyway.
Ward slipped?
Who? Gibson?
No, but
Mooney Ward slipped. Yeah, Mooney Ward slipped.
Yeah.
Marcel with more experience, Green Bay would have won. Rookie mistakes. It doesn't feel like they're going anywhere. What's better, the Jordan Willis Hufanga punt block, Middlekauff let Purdy this game, or what's better? The Jordan Willis Hufanga punt block game is better, right?
Not even close. It's way better to win a game when you're an underdog and you're losing all game. If the Niners were a 10-point underdog and they had just won this, it would be a jubilation, right? If the roles were reversed. If they were a 10-point underdog and they had just won this, you'd be like, what did we just witness? That was that Packer game. Aaron Rodgers, MVP, huge underdog. Jimmy Garoppolo's throwing baby's own picks. This is like, wait, we're a 10-point favorite. Shouldn't we be kicking their ass? Shouldn't we be kicking their ass? Down the entire game. And then it's 14-13. You're like, okay.
Kevin says you guys are massive.
They not only scored when it was 14-13, they got the 2-pointer and no one's even around them. I think when you're a favorite and you're up and then they score to take the lead, and then whenever a team goes for 2 and you get a 2-pointer, listen, you get a crazy contested 2-pointer, you're like, hey, tip my hat. When the 2-pointer is the guy's like falling down, but you look around, there's not a defender around him. Didn't Aaron Jones catch that 2-pointer in the flat?
Yeah, nobody there.
Nobody was around there. Like, do we know what's going on, guys? It's like, and then Greg showed it. Like Fred had to go a long way. It's like, well, shouldn't we change the defense up? If that's the case, he's got to cover that guy and he's got to go through. Is that a great play call? Is that a deficiency of the defense? Should they switch off the coverages? Like, I'm not pretending to be Belichick here, but just do the physics of this whole thing. How is this guy going to get over there when he's got to go through 7 guys? That's advantage them. And I got to give hat tip to LaFleur. Like, and that's where it felt like, oh my God, what's going to happen here? That's where it felt really bad. I thought the 2-pointer was like, this is going to be a problem. That feels like a nail in a coffin in the sense of like, we don't even have a chance at a 2-pointer. How are we going to get a big, 3rd down stop if we're down a field goal right at the end of the game? You start thinking like big picture stuff like that, which I still do feel makes me nervous with Wilkes against, I know Ben Johnson has had 17 interviews in the last 2 days and he's got a football game to coach tomorrow. But if the Lions win, like he's a really good offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And that's just like, ultimately this comes down to, as we saw tonight, just a play here, a play there. Sometimes it feels like Steve, and listen, Fred, I can't put that on Fred. Like that's a position, like he had some plays tonight where he gets caught on blocks. That's a play. Like he physically, Ray Lewis in his prime's not getting over there.
I did give you weren't on yet, but I did give Steve credit. That pressure they ran before the 3rd down before the missed field goal, the 3rd and 10, where they brought both linebackers up and then bailed them, and then everyone else broke through. Give in the chess match of the game, Wilkes, I thought, deserved some credit on that call.
Well, in fairness to Steve, I want to defend him. I don't think he can do what he naturally wants to do because he's not allowed to blitz as much as he wants because Kyle will get pissed.
Yeah.
So it's like
you better be right when he does it.
No, I know, but you have your defensive coordinator who feels a little bit like he has his hands tied because he's afraid that if he does fuck up, he'll be called the idiot and it's his fault. Where it might kind of be, but like he can't really do what he wants to do, right? It all gets back to in the middle of the season, like blitzing at the wrong time. Like he does want to blitz more. And in fairness, like you said, the pressures, but then you look like they're, even when they get front 4 pressure, the guy's going 4 of 6 for 60 yards. Like, yeah, let's bring a little more pressure with our linebackers, but he's hesitant to do it. When in fairness, his linebackers are actually good blitzing linebackers, right? Because they're really athletic guys.
Right.
But if it doesn't work, it's really devastating. And now I think you're terrified with the corner play.
Yeah. Kevin says you guys are massively underrating Purdy. What Purdy just did and way overreacting to what Love just did. Look at the box score. He had 2 picks as well. He did. Oh, not as well. Brock didn't have 2 picks. He had 2 picks.
But again, no one's acting like Jordan Love is like, we're just talking about Purdy relative to the way he's been playing and the way he played was.
Well, I think that's a reaction to like saying Love was better than Brock today because a lot of it looked good, but then the bottom line was he threw 2 interceptions. Brock threw none. Brock led the game-winning drive. Brock had 6 minutes to do it, right? Jordan Love didn't, but
I wouldn't even. I don't think we have, since we've been talking, really compared the two. More about like Brock in a vacuum was pretty bad, right?
I thought you said Love was better today, or looked better today.
I think he did look better throughout the game, right? And I don't disagree with that. Like interceptions, and we've talked about this before. Brock's had good games where he throw picks are inexcusable in big games, but like Brock in a vacuum today for the aggregate was pretty terrible. I think we all agree there. Big drive, 2 big throws. but like throughout the game, like most people, if you would have polled the 40 million people watching, like who's playing better, what's the polls? 98 to 2?
Yeah.
Not even 99.9 to 0.01.
Nick says, Kyle said, here we go, John, the Jennings play. So if you're listening to this or watching this later, you already know the answer. Kyle said it was a mistake. He forgot to tell Purdy to take the hezi on the play. The hezi is for Debo. He only gave him wristband. How do you, here would be my question on that, John. That was the first play of the second quarter, was it not?
Feels like it.
So, Debo gets hurt mid-drive. There's a mistake. This is the first play. Like this is the first play of the second half. This is the first play of the second half. So, okay, we will rescind the criticism for the bad play call and then re-add criticism for making that mistake in a big game. How about that?
I saw someone write earlier in one of the chats that said, like, I love you guys how you react after the game, but I understand it's hard for you to follow everything that the coaches are saying in their post-game press conferences, and they use that as an example. Complete bullshit. I'm sorry, Kyle. No one wants to hear an excuse on that play. Like, well, on the fucking wristband.
It doesn't. It just changes where the. Yeah, well, if that's what happened, that's what happened. So I appreciate the explanation. We just move the blame from the play call to.
Shouldn't Jauan say in the huddle, like, what are we? This is crazy, guys. Like, what are we doing? Obviously, everyone wants their opportunity, but I would imagine Jauan Jennings is thinking, like, this is probably not a great idea. Take the hezi off?
I don't know. Yeah.
Come on. Again, I'm not. That's clearly what he said because I saw a couple of other people bring it up. But I'm with you. Kyle's not getting absolved from that situation. I mean, what are we doing? The player calling. Doesn't Kyle go immediately to the board? Hasn't that been all his thing? Like 5 or 6 or 10 plays out of the half? Isn't that a famous Kyle?
That's what I
thought. Hezi, Jauan Jennings.
Rohan says early lines, Niners 7 if it's the Lions, 10.5 on the Bucks. All right.
You can be really good at your job and have bad days, right? I mean, I think a lot of people thought of that about Andy Reid for 20 years. Had some rough days and big moments. It doesn't diminish that he's a really good coach, right? Because one thing you knew with him is he was the play caller. I think that's where I always give the benefit of the doubt to the guys impacting the game. That's why I have a lot of respect for LaFleur. That's why in a weird way over the conversation, like McCarthy's shitting down his leg in that game was really bad. But I do respect it. Like, he can call an offense, right? Like Tomlin, Harbaugh, they're just so dependent on their coordinators. Like, fuck yeah, Mike McDonald, Todd Monken. Like, they're not doing anything. Like, think how much more pressure it is as a coach to call half the game. You're watching D'Amico there just trying to call the game all for 60 minutes against Lamar Jackson. Harbaugh just gets to stand there and just try to stay warm with some heat warmers and like give some rah-rahs at half and give some good high fives. Think about the pressure difference on every NFL head coach who's a play caller. It is dramatic. Like, of course, Pete Carroll's like, oh, Pete saw Pete Carroll losing his shit. Well, yeah, he's not doing anything. He's just standing there. I hope he notices. Fucking doesn't have to call the defense. Flores or Patricia's doing that. Like, you have a lot going on as a play caller. And if you're good at it and as a head coach, LaFleur, D'Amico, Kyle, all these guys, Andy, it's hard. I mean, it's really, really difficult. But you're allowed to have like Nolan Ryan and Greg Maddux and Tiger Woods, Roger Federer. Like, they don't have their A game every single time that they lace it up. Like, Kyle had, I don't know, a rough game for his standards. It doesn't mean he's bad. It doesn't mean I'd want to change him as a head coach. Today was a little glaring. Like, my thought process on Steve Wilks, I don't view him like some elite guy. So I know I'm kind of holding on to my ass. I do hold Kyle to a pretty high standard. I talk about him like he's one of the greats at his role as a play caller / head coach. I thought tonight was just not great. It wasn't. Especially against someone. If I would have said, hey, he's going up against the number 1 defense in the league, so-and-so coordinator, like, fuck, you just find a way to win, tip your hat, this playoffs, it's a notch in your belt. It's not how it really felt, right? It's like, is Joe Barry going to be their defensive coordinator in 3 days? There's a decent chance he might not be. I think most Packer fans, once they take a breath, still want him gone. So that's where I think the criticism and people question shit is like, this guy's supposed to be our greatest asset, even greater than the quarterback.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, Kyle makes what? What do you think, Kyle? $15 million? Quarterback makes Kyle makes 15x Brock Purdy. And the 49ers tomorrow, you pull John Lynch, Jed York, and honestly, most of the fans, you had to get rid of one. What percent would choose get rid of Kyle over Brock Purdy? Feels like Kyle would be kept by 99.9% of people. So he's held at the standard of, like, in a weird way, Mahomes, Brady, or whatever, because he's that of this team, right? And that's what I thought throughout the game, that it felt very weird. Like, it is crazy as the way to describe this, and this might be a little reflection of Brock, is like he kind of is their Tom Brady, right? He's their guy.
Well, look, Brock has not played a lot of games. Kyle Shanahan has coached a lot of games, right? Like, Kyle Shanahan has coached so many games that I know that Kyle Shanahan is mostly way better than he was in this game. We'll see with Brock. 3-4 years got to play out. I know people hate hearing that sometimes with Purdy, but that's just the reality of QB play. You mostly don't know after 2 years of a guy's career if he's going to be great or not. You generally know if he's not going to be good, but you don't know for sure if we said after 2 years, is this player going to be great? You would miss a lot on yes.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll see. But, for the Niners, so much of this gets judged on what comes next now, right? Did they just get there? Somebody saved their life on a heart attack and they bounce back and, make the most of their second lease on life?
Go on to be Jeff Bezos. Yeah.
Yeah. If they lose next week, or if they go to the Super Bowl and lose, then we go, all right, all that, depending on how it looks, I don't know how it's going to look, but maybe a lot of stuff that happened in that Packer game is the same stuff that comes up in the Super Bowl, and they got problems. Maybe they win the championship and you go, boy, every team that ever wins a championship needs some luck and needs to win a game without their best and doesn't get to just roll right through the playoffs, right? We don't know yet which one this is. We don't know yet. And that's where you got to go, you know what, though? With their C game rolling, they found a way to win the game. They found a way. Can they play that game against Detroit next week? Maybe not. Can they play
I'm
that
not
game?
trying to be negative. This
No.
was
John, I know you're not. I'm just pointing out that, like, all of
they
this
were
stuff
a 10-point favorite.
All of this, not all of this stuff, but some of the stuff we're talking about only holds up from now until next week.
Yeah.
And then what happens next week either makes this stuff bigger if they lose the game or makes it smaller if they win the game. And if they win the Super Bowl or not, and Brock Purdy comes back at quarterback, there's going to be another day where we're looking at the Niners and it's a Friday. And we're like, oh shit, there's rain in the forecast. And then what's he going to do? I don't know. We don't know yet. But a lot of us will be going, you and I will be going, well, I know what it looks like in the rain. I don't know. Niners aren't going to cover today. Well, and they'll have to find a way to be better. But
my guy Stuckey on the Action Network on Thursday looked, and they would still be, at the time, this was before these two games, they would still have been favored over the Ravens in the Super Bowl. Right? They were 6.5. It was 6 or 6.5 in that regular season Christmas Day. And it was closer to like 2, 1.5, but they would have been the favorite in the Super Bowl. I wonder if, after
feels
today,
like it'd be different right now.
Yeah. Pick them. Ravens favored by 1.
If these were the conference championship games, what would the line? And it was Ravens Niners about to play in the Super Bowl. I'd say
Ravens minus 2.5. What's Debo's status? Like out for the game?
Yeah, that's true. I was going to say 3.5, but
yeah, they'd be the underdog
because you get
even if they were favored by you know, if it was like Ravens +1 to start, it feels like a lot of people would put money on them immediately. And he was also saying the one thing that changes lines in Super Bowl because so many people bet is the public can sway a little bit. So like, if the Ravens open is like +2.5, the public can sway that to like a pick 'em just because it's
Do
the
they
most
set the
bet
line
game.
differently in the Super Bowl because of that?
No, I don't think they do to start with, and then they kind of, you know, it's just so much money's coming in, you can't really. It's like a dam breaking. There's nothing you can do to stop the flow. You set the line like you normally do, and then people change. But also, like, it's gambling. Like, people get fucked no matter what, right? Who knows?
Yep.
I know this. If the Ravens were playing the Niners, I would not feel comfortable because I had the thought, like, would I put like 10 grand on the Niners if it was like a coin flip game? I would not feel comfortable doing that after what I witnessed tonight.
What if it's Bucks Ravens? Would you put 10 on the Ravens?
Yeah, I would feel more. But I'm just saying. I'm saying the Niners.
Yeah,
Niners in a situation. I have less faith in them in a Super Bowl winner take all against the Ravens specifically. I lost faith tonight of just putting a large amount of money because that had crossed my mind. Like, I think that'd be pretty cool. You know, it'd be one of those moments you'd remember. And then tonight happened. That was the other thing crossing my mind during the game. Like, I cannot bet on this team in the Super Bowl. Not saying they can't win it, and they might. I don't think I would be able to put a lot of my money toward them.
Well,
and I'd already started budgeting a couple wins, you know, if I had some money like in a little hopper.
One thing we can say definitively about Kyle, in his best years, in his worst years, and all the years in between, it is for an elite coach. And you could say it's about Andy. Andy got his championship. Andy like has elevated, you know, to elite status. But it's still a roller coaster.
It's football.
Just a roller coaster. It's football.
Saban lost a lot of crazy games, right?
Yeah.
Jim and John Harbaugh have lost crazy games. Is this why the sport is probably the most intriguing? Just because of the craziness and the one game aspect.
One game. Yeah, it's one game. A few more super chats here because the longer we go, they keep piling up. Cornelio says, can you say Brock Purdy came back? What else can you say? You know what? You go win a Super Bowl, then maybe it's just the Brock Purdy comeback game. It's his first, you know, not his first comeback, but do you think it would rust at all? Was that rust? Were they out of like any of that? Like Packers had a lot
Ravens, their first half, they rested everybody. They were pretty off.
Yeah. Texans looked like, well, Texans didn't look like the Packers looked early, but they were into that game. Like they had
the Ravens looked more off than the Texans looked awesome.
Yeah. Tim A says the defensive line not getting home against QBs is killing this defense. Too much talent there to underperform. You forget about Randy Gregory, you know, until he got that penalty. Hit us with two super chats there. So, anything else to add? Do we have more juice? You got I think we hit a lot here.
Yeah, man. What a night. It's crazy when you're prepared for a loss and you get a win.
I know. Yeah, it's a rush, man. There's nothing quite like live sports. I mean, I'll go watch some of Super Pumped tonight. The Uber show. It's not the same as live sports.
I am glad. I wasn't really that comfortable betting on the 49ers this week. Felt a little too easy. I actually felt the Ravens.
As the week went on, I was like, God, people are it's extreme, I thought, as the week went on.
Well, I was confident too. I had someone on the 49ers scouting staff text me like, are you nervous? Like, I didn't have money on this game besides McCaffrey getting over 100 yards. I'm like, no, I'm not nervous. I honestly just felt like pretty comfortable the Niners were just going to win. You know? To me, the Ravens game, it's like this Texans team, they're young, they have injuries, they're going to get overwhelmed. Like we've seen this Ravens team physically overwhelmed. I had respect for the Packers thinking they could score. I just, you never, I think this thing with this 49er Purdy version, expect them not to be rolling on offense. And when they're not rolling on offense, it feels really weird, really fast.
Well, that's what
throws you off. Yeah, there's not like the Packers tonight. They weren't like humming like they were against the Packers, but they were fine. So if you're a Packer fan, you're like, okay, we're good. With you, the Niners, you're like, who is this? What is going on?
But that's how it is. They are feast or famine. Like they either look like the greatest show on turf, or
struggle to get 23 points.
Some knockoff version. It's crazy. And then here's the other thing. When Kyle's offense, when somebody else makes it look good, it looks just like the Niners. Like when fucking the Packers are doing their Shanahan game opening drive against Dallas and then against the Niners today, like that 2 weeks in a row, the Packers have had a Niners drive to open the game. Like, yep, that's the Niners. There it is. There's Kyle Shanahan's team.
Do you hold that block field goal? Is that on Moody, the unit?
I thought it was. I mean, I'm not kicker guy. I thought it was on him. Like that ball came out, I thought low and was headed left. Because the guy that blocked it didn't break through. He just jumped.
No, the guy that blocked it felt like he was a couple gaps right of the center. So is that field goal going in?
I didn't think it was.
Is it better to have it blocked than missed by 15 feet to the left?
Yes.
Yeah, it probably is.
Like, do you think the kicker knows from the moment it hits his foot, just in that millisecond where it gets to the line, whether it's going in or not? Like, it feels good, but that doesn't always equal make, right? And sometimes it doesn't feel great, and you do make it. Like,
that's a good question. I don't know kickers well enough. Like, I bet you could get most pro golfers. Like, that was a really bad shot, I got lucky, or that was a really bad shot, I deserved to go out of bounds or in the water. Yeah. Can most kickers say, like, I caught it good or not, but like if they were doing the equivalent into a simulator that was going in or not, like a golfer could go, that's a good shot or not? I don't know. I'd have to. That's a very nerdy. I mean, Kyle wouldn't know. He hates kickers and punters, right? He hates special teams. Hates them.
Got to give.
It's why Hightower. I actually feel bad now.
Nailed it. PAT was good also.
The more and more I think
big
about
PAT at the end of the game.
What I gave shit to Hightower, it is a fundamental ethos of Kyle Shanahan. Like, special teams just not his baby. It's just like that because we would have ripped that kick return.
Not his baby. It is his baby, and he dropped it off at somebody else's doorstep.
Yeah, I just think how little it's
his job for it to be his baby. Because
I think ideally he just wants a good kicker, a good punter, and just like make some tackles and let's just get around it.
Yeah. Then why don't they ever kick it out of the? Why don't they kick it out? Oh, Moody did kick it out of the end zone at the end of the game. Moody had John. It's the first time Moody has missed a kick. Wait, is it the first time?
I think the punt that got him at the 10-yard line was good too. Like, especially those two guys.
First time he's missed a kick in a game and not missed another kick in that game, because he missed 2 in the Rams game. He missed 2 in the Browns game. First time Moody has missed, and in the preseason game, the first one, remember, he missed twice. So, but I think he might have missed in another preseason game just once. But anyway, it's the first time he's not missed. And someone just made the point. It's a good point. It's the first time he hasn't missed like in bunches. He just missed the one time.
But that's my point. Like, is a miss when a block doesn't feel quite like a hook or a push, right? It feels a little better.
It doesn't always, but that one to me felt the same because I think it was coming out low and to the left. But it's so hard to know there. Sometimes the ball starts left and comes back.
I do think it felt less deflating to the fan that had questionable faith in the guy. When you're like, oh, I got blocked, than if he had seen him hook it 15 feet to the left.
I wondered in his dome, is it better for him to have it blocked? John, the extra point, it's 23-21 when he lines up for that extra point. It's a big-ass extra point. And he drilled it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. What a night.
All right. Everybody, thanks for hanging. We'll talk to you all later. Happy Saturday night. Deuces.